the maternal father of the Pokémon world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401, Are You a Painter? On September 22nd, at the Queen's Tour dinner on the Santo Anu, I will order the real Dark Star K-Tau Kid. Is this kid's notice letter? Eminem saw the kid card from Conan's hand. Of course, it was the photo he took. Well, the Suzuki group got a fake one before. I wanted to see if I would be fooled, but kid found out. Conan said matter-of-factly point because this Dark Star is an heirloom of the Suzuki family, which is kept by Shirao and Tomoko, so, unlike that Uncle Prodigy, who is both good and fun-loving, and must be ready to challenge Kid every time. After Tomoko learned that Kid was eyeing the Dark Star, he created a fake one. However, just yesterday, Kid found out and left this exact challenge. It's true, Aunt Tomoko. If it doesn't work, I won't put it on display. Eminem muttered. Conan knows better than Eminem in this regard. The legendary Dark Star is a mythical pearl that can bring good luck to people. It must be popular to gain popularity, so it must be exhibited regularly. Huh? Do you still believe this? Eminem asked in surprise. Why don't you believe it? Conan asked naturally, but he felt that Eminem was confused. Eminem was dumbfounded and soon understood. In this world, mythical beasts and supernatural forces exist objectively, and Conan, or Shinichi, as a materialist, will of course accept this objective existence. At this moment, Xiaolan's voice came from outside the door. Conan, Eminem, have you finished changing your clothes? Yeah, Conan said, running over and opening the door. Outside the door, Xiaoxia and 3 other people came in wearing formal dresses, followed by 2 little girls, all of whom looked like Simmer at this time, but because the clothes were also in Gothic Lalita style, it wasn't a big problem. Emma, your cousin is so cute. Xiaolan praised highly. Yuanzi murmured, one is just more introverted than the other. That's right. They didn't know how many sisters Eminem actually had. By the time he got off the boat, there was actually one more sister. Of course, I was dragged by Yuanzi to go to the party together, although Nazi was unwilling to do so. It was a pity. Now she was just a weak, pitiful and helpless little girl. In addition, Eminem mentioned that people from the Fuse group would also attend the party, so she had to pretend. As a result, she was taken away by Xiaoxia and the others, and dressed up severely. Tomizawa Group is an important partner of Suzuki Group. Although it is a little worse than Suzuki Group, it is secretly an important collaborator and purse of the Rocket. Sayako's fiancé is the second young master of Tomizawa Group. Eminem vaguely remembers that he seems to be the youngest one in the original work. But that doesn't matter. What Eminem and Nana care about is not this, but the people in Fuse Group are related to Team Rocket, so they must be careful. They may be related to Marzisha's rebellion. What if someone is spying on Eminem? Nazi decided to act to the end, but Eminem doesn't know why she keeps staring at him. I didn't dress you. Let's go. Let's go. The dinner is about to begin. Yuanzi urged. Eminem and Conan have also changed their clothes at this time. Eminem is still in the same outfit he bought before, and Conan, blue children's suit, shorts, red bow tie, standard death dress. If Kid hadn't been coming today, Eminem would never have let him wear it like this. As we all know, Kid has a certain disaster blocking effect, and has a high probability of covering Conan's death effect. At this time, the horn of the cruise ship sounded, half an hour after the boat sets off. The dinner will begin. Eminem and others also walk to the dinner hall at this time. Of course the Suzuki family had rented the venue. In fact, the party didn't last long. That is, it took about 3 hours after the boat sailed in the evening. Afterwards, Shirao and Tomoko would disembark at Ramperki, the next stop point. But as soon as the party time passes, Dark Star has completed its display, and it will be difficult for Kid to succeed after that. Moreover, Kid's trailer also mentioned that he would take action at a party, the Queen's Tour dinner, which obviously refers to the dinner where Dark Stars is exhibited. Pearl is the queen among gems at this time. Eminem also kept holding hands with Nana for fear of being suspected. It It said that my mother thought of a way this time, saying that Master Kid will definitely not succeed. Yuanzi kept talking on the road. Ahem. Xiaolin wanted to remind her, you called Kid by his honorific title again. Didn't you say you should be careful in front of that person? Huh. It's my sister. At this time, Sonoko noticed that Ayako came out of the banquet hall, seeming to be looking for something. After hearing this, Eminem immediately paid attention. He hasn't seen Ayako in the past 2 days, and Eminem's persuasion has not yet been carried out. Sister, what's wrong? Who are you looking for? Yuanzi asked curiously. No, just come. Ayako said, leading Sonoko and his party into the banquet hall. But at this moment, Eminem suddenly noticed a sneaky figure passing by. Zio. AI, please look after Nana for me, Eminem said, handing Nana to Zio. AI, poke, B. Pakibi flicked his tongue. What's wrong with Eminem? In a hurry. Xiaoxia complained at the side point, entrusting a 6-year-old girl to the care of another 6-year-old girl. Is there anything more unreliable than this? Nana, Zioe, just follow me, sister. Xiaoxia said generously. Both of them remained silent, which made Xiaoxia a little embarrassed. Speaking of Nana, has anyone said who you look like? Xiaoxia asked curiously. She always felt that Nana looked familiar. After all, her most admired trainer was Kona, and her second most admired trainer was Nazi. Fortunately, Nana not only looks like a 6-year-old now, but her pupils and hair are also different. Conan looked at Nana with some confusion at this time. He was also curious about why there was another strange little girl around Eminem. But Eminem told him that it had nothing to do with App 9527 and asked him not to make random guesses or spill the beans. At this time, Eminem caught this sneaky guy outside. He saw a guy wearing a peaked cap and overalls looking at his attire. Eminem looked solemn. Didn't he just need to carry a pallet? Tell me, are you a painter? Eminem asked, holding his collar. When the other party saw Eminem, he was also frightened and stammered. Huh. Then I am a painter. You still dare to be a painter? You young people without jobs are just willing to think of yourself as painters. When Eminem saw one of the culprits who might have collided with the ship, he gave him a slap on the head. Shouldn't that be a writer? The young man felt aggrieved and did not dare to resist, but he whispered in a low voice, a painter needs basic skills, right? How dare you slander a writer? Writers don't use models. Eminem thought again, at least when the writer describes who only wears the dark star necklace, he doesn't need a model. He was hit again, and his hat tilted. After the hair below was exposed, Eminem was stunned for a moment, feeling vaguely familiar. After looking carefully, he recognized, you are Kojiro. Am I a writer, a painter, or Kojiro? It's up to you. Kojiro was about to cry without tears. Slim Shady, I asked you to pretend to be a painter, Kojiro. Got hit again. Chapter 402. Tomoko's plan. Kojiro claimed to be in civilian clothes to maintain the order of large-scale events on the Santino. Although Eminem still felt that something was strange, but let's believe that Kojiro was not here to cause trouble. After all, that guy Kid can't be guilty of pretending to be Kojiro, pretending to be a painter, right? After Eminem arrived at the banquet hall, a waiter came over and presented a small box. What is this? Eminem asked, confused after taking it, and found that everyone else seemed to have it too. This is a gift prepared by Madam for everyone. Madam will explain it in detail later. This waiter is obviously a member of the Suzuki family, so he calls Tomoko this way. Amu nodded after hearing this, and at the same time, found Yuanzi and others, so he walked over. Just when they came to Xiaoxia and Yuanzi, before they could say anything, the surrounding lights suddenly dimmed. At the same time, Nazi and Xiaoi were immediately on guard. Conan on the side rolled his eyes. Children should act like children. This pretense is not professional at all. By the way, this Nana is really not because of App 9. Bar. Is it really not caused by APTX 4869? At this moment, a spotlight came down, and Aunt Tomoko, wearing a formal dress, appeared in the light. This year is our Suzuki family's repertoire, the exhibition dinner of Dark Star. but there is a little thief who doesn't know the heights of heaven and earth, and he actually targets Dark Star. Haha, everyone here is our honored guest. Please don't because of that little thief. My mood was affected. For this purpose, I have specially prepared some small gifts or small entertainment programs. Now everyone, please open the gift boxes distributed to everyone when you come in. Tomoko said at this time, taking the small gift box in his hand also opened, the same style as what everyone got. Point at this time, everyone opened the small box as instructed, and suddenly there was a constant sound of gasps in the banquet hall. This is Dark Star. No way. It should just be an ordinary black pearl, right? But such big black pearls are not that common anymore. Yes, this is just a souvenir for everyone, and it can also be regarded as a small challenge to that stupid thief. I also have a Dark Star in my hand, but to be honest, even me now, I can't tell immediately which one is real, because we just distributed them randomly. Hahaha. Mrs. Tomoko was obviously very satisfied with her design. Eminem was also slightly surprised at this time. When he saw the black pearl in the box, Eminem had a flash of memory. It seemed that this trick was played in the original work, but he couldn't hide it from Kid anyway. But now, Aunt Tomoko said she didn't know either. In the original work, only Tomoko knows, so based on Aunt Tomoko's behavior, Kid excluded most people, based on the fact that the Suzuki family will not give genuine products to people who don't know how to care for black pearls, and then locked in Tomoko herself. But now if it's true that even Tomoko herself doesn't know, TSK won't it get damaged? Eminem looked at the black pearl in his hand with some worry. How is it possible? This is a pearl produced by Kapu Finfin. Even if it is deliberately destroyed, it is difficult. Conan said from the side. Eminem was stunned after hearing this. That's right. In the world of Pokémon, it is impossible for a genuine Dark Star to be accidentally damaged. And seeing Chiral looking very surprised at this moment, it seems that even he just found out about this, so this randomness may be true. Of course, the lucky person who draws the genuine product will not be able to give you our Suzuki Group's home treasure. However, after successfully guarding the Dark Star, our Suzuki Group will give you any kind of Mega Evolution Stone! Even if it's not in the warehouse now, you can still give us time to look for it. Tomoko said solemnly at this time. As for whether the Suzuki Group can find, obviously no one doubts this. After all, Suzuki Group is a world-class conglomerate, and its main business is mining. If even the Suzuki Consortium can't find it, I'm afraid the Quartz Alliance won't be able to find it either. At first, Eminem couldn't help but lament the generousness, but when he thought about it carefully, when Tokiwa Twin Towers cut the ribbon, he was even given a banker egg as a prize. The strength of the two seems to be about the same. How can we tell the difference after that? Mom must have forgotten. Yuanzi looked at the Dark Star, Part 1, in his hand, and said worriedly. Conan said from the side, the Dark Star will glow slightly under the full moon. Today is the full moon, and the moon will probably appear at the end of the banquet. Conan had just finished speaking when he noticed that both Yuanzi and Xiaolan were looking at him suspiciously, especially Nina, who was also looking at him suspiciously. Ahaha. I heard what Brother Eminem said. Because he is so unlucky, he cares about these things very much. After Conan laughed dryly, he pulled Eminem out as a shield. Then, there's no point in checking this. I can't give it to you. Yuanzi looked at Amu, and then whispered with a red face. Huh. Eminem didn't hear her words clearly. He just pinned Dark Star, Part 1, to his chest. Aunt Tomoko specially designed all the imitations to look like brooches. That's right. In this way, everyone will carry the Dark Star in their chests. If the stupid thief, you are here, please identify where the real Dark Star is within 3 hours. Who is there? Hahaha. Tomoko said with some provocation. The guests also laughed to save face. At this time, Yumi walked up, took the microphone from Tomoko's hand and said, but everyone should pay attention to it. The thief is very good at pretending to be other people and appraising jewelry. He may hide among you and pretend to be someone else. Your relatives and friends are here to gain trust and wait for an opportunity to identify Dark Star. So now everyone and your friends confirm the secrets that only you know and then agree on a password. Yumi is in charge of the security of the Santino when it is in the Quartz Alliance waters. The Jinsen Police Department, which specializes in arresting Kid, is also there, but they also have to listen to Yumi's arrangements. Hearing what Yumi said, Zyuksha on the side suddenly stared at Eminem and asked, "Eminem, just now, you didn't come in with us, right, Zyuksha?" And Yuanzi heard this, and immediately looked at him warily. Eminem spread his hands helplessly and said, "I went to arrest the painter. No, I went to arrest the writer. That's not right. I went to arrest Jack. Anyway, I didn't do anything bad." Hearing this, everyone, except Nazi, nodded. The one who spoke so confusingly must be Eminem himself. At this time, Nazi fell into deep thought, because you know that the other person is good at disguise, so you have to agree on a secret code. Something seems not quite right. Chapter 403 Little Show. Nana. Where did we first meet? Eminem decisively chose Nana to verify. However, Nana's face was solemn at this time and she ignored him. "What's wrong?" Amu asked in a low voice. "Boss Sakaki didn't agree on any secret code with me," Nazi said in confusion. "Huh? Why do we need to agree on a secret code?" Amu still doesn't know the abilities of Lambda and Sachi. Nazi hesitated after hearing the words and did not want Eminem to know that the Nazi he saw before was a fake and he was actually Nazi, so he prevaricated. Among the rebels, there was one named Lambda. Just like this little thief, he's good at cross-dressing. Lambda? Eminem vaguely felt that the name sounded familiar, and then suddenly remembered that when Coffin turned into Mazishi at Moonview Mountain, he was mistaken for Lambda by the Rockets' little leader, teasing them. "But no one else can pretend to be the way you are now, right?" Eminem said matter-of-factly. "But there is a possibility that he will dress up like Boss Sakaki," Nazi said from a different angle. Eminem thought for a moment and said, "Maybe it's because there's nothing you can do to help. Didn't you tell them that you can recover early?" "But Boss Sakaki, Lance, you and the others should agree on a secret code, right? There's no reason not to tell me." Nazi became more and more suspicious the more she spoke. Eminem really wants to say, "Is there a possibility that it's because your level is not high enough?" At this moment, there was a sudden noise, and a figure in a white dress appeared on the pillar next to the wall. "No need to bother, I've already got the Dark Star." The man dressed as Kid was tossing a black pearl up and down in his hand. Amid the exclamations, Tomoko immediately stood up and said, "What a pity that your journey as a great thief has to end here." Saying that, Tomoko released a Metrograss, flew up directly, and beat Kid to the ground with 4 steel claws. The violent scene caused Junsha, who was present, to stop him quickly, but he was still a step too late, and saw Kid falling on the table like a rag. Suddenly there were screams all around, and Sonoko was also in a daze. "Lord Kid, that's it." Then Sonoko was a little nervous again. She didn't know if her face was damaged or not. She hadn't seen it yet. MMRS. "Tomoko, what are you doing? Quick, rescue, don't move. Take the Metagross back." Yumi quickly wanted to stop the situation, but Tomoko smiled and said, "Don't be nervous, it's just a joke." "A joke?" He was. Yumi suddenly discovered that Kid had stood up and politely took off his hat and bowed to everyone around him, as if the table under his feet was a stage point. And as soon as he took off his hat, everyone saw that the person coming was not Kid, but a middle-aged man with 2 tufts of white hair. Although no one knows what Kid looks like, even because Kid is a title passed down from father to son, and the first crime was almost 20 years ago, so everyone generally thinks that he is middle-aged. But everyone still recognized that the person in front of them was not Kid, because this person was not less famous than Kid. "Master Adam, it's Master Adam. Ah, so handsome. Adam, that's right. The person coming is none other than Adam, the owner of the Fingyuan area and Liulichum and the world's top coordinator. Adam, oh, he's the owner of Fingyuan, right?" Nana acted at this moment, frowning at the old coquettish guy who interrupted her thoughts. His other identity is more famous, the teacher of Fingyuan champion and world's #1 coordinator Mikri. Seeing that ZioAI was still confused, Conan added, Macris, teacher? Then his level as a trainer. ZioAI was a little surprised, but compared to the flashy coordinator, ZioAI cared more about strength. This should be. Conan didn't quite understand this. The level of the General Grandmaster is about the same as an Amaru in Kanto now. Natsu said unceremoniously. Conan, is this little girl so loud? Still just, but in terms of coordinators, the level and popularity of Gym Leader Adam are definitely world class, even in. Conan was about to say something, but he didn't say it clearly. He just looked at the cheering people around him and smiled. Maybe Adam's popularity is even higher among middle-aged and elderly women. ZioAI looked at the cheering crowd and guessed what he was going to say. You don't know him? His movies were all popular around the world 10 years ago. Conan pretended to be casual, trying to test ZioAI's age point. However, ZioAI saw through it and looked at him like a white mouse. Conan then changed the subject with a smile point at the same time. Nazi took a deep look at the kid from the side. Who is this being sarcastic about? Is it considered a middle-aged or older woman to have watched Adam's movie? What will happen if you don't live 10 years? Do you know the host Adam and Aunt Tomoko? Amu asked Sonoko in surprise. Yes, Uncle Adam, Dad and Mom are all old friends. Yuanzi said matter-of-factly. Eminem understood clearly after hearing this. It seems that Dawn and McCree are still family friends. That's right. Mr. Adam was specially invited this time. If that little thief knew that Mr. Adam was playing him, he would be honored, even if he was caught, right? Tomoko mocked Kid again at this time. No, he's just an outdated old man. I've actually heard of Kid's words. He's a very good magic coordinator, but it's a pity. Adam said, you're a beautiful woman, but how can you be a thief? Tone point. But Eminem noticed keenly at this moment. Adam's tone was a bit artificial. It seemed he probably knew Kid's identity, or at least knew that Kid was not a middle-aged man. Otherwise he wouldn't have said that. He was not old enough to be in the old age. Kid, to the extent of pretending to be old in front of him. At the same time, there was some sincerity in his tone, so Eminem guessed he may know the identity of old Kid, and also know that old Kid is dead or missing. So he speculates that the current Kid is the young heir. Adam later also performed an impromptu show for the guests. On the one hand, he was to support his old friends, and on the other hand, the coordinators were mostly very showy. But it seems that Kid guy can't find the real Dark Star like this, right? Eminem said, looking at the almost identical black pearls on everyone's chests. No, actually there is still a range. After all, if the pearls of the mythical beast Capufinfin are really distributed randomly, they will naturally fall into the hands of the most suitable person. Nazi reminded at this time. One sentence. Conan thought the same thing just now, but was snatched away by Nana, and now he became more and more suspicious of her identity. Chapter 404. The right person. Will the random distribution fall into the hands of the most suitable person? Eminem was stunned when he heard this. Is there such a random thing? But if you think about it carefully, after something as illusory as improving luck has come out, it seems reasonable that the pearls of mythical beasts have such special characteristics. Moreover, the reason why Shirao and Tomoko decided to take out Darkstar was originally to gather popularity, and presumably it would fall into the hands of the most important popularity. What does it mean to be suitable? A fairy trainer? Eminem looked at little to GP, then pointed at himself and said, I'm a fairy trainer, right? Could this be me? The fairy type is one thing, and among the fairy type trainers present, there are not one or two who have a higher affinity than you, right? Conan rolled his eyes. Nazi said coldly, this is a pearl from a real divine beast, and the attributes of a real divine beast are completely different from the general attributes. The fairy system, the stars, the power from the stars, and the pearl itself represents the queen. I think it should be a female fairy trainer who has a close relationship with the stars or the moon. Conan looked at Nana in surprise. After all, this wasn't a little girl, right? He has conducted in-depth research on the symbolic meaning of mysticism. Eminem, on the other hand, was stunned for a moment. It related to the moon? Women? Eminem looked weird. Isn't this just me? Although Eminem is not a female physically, in terms of occult symbolism, Eminem is the best candidate for mother, and in terms of affinity with fairy type Pokémon, Eminem is of course not as good as those veteran and powerful fairy type trainers, but if we talk about the symbol of mysticism, Eminem is not only mother, but also moon. Eminem lowered his head and looked at the black pearl on his chest. If this one wasn't a dark star, it would be a bit rude to the mother path and the moon path, right? Ah, I know. It must be my mother. Yuanzi suddenly said. Huh. Amu looked at Sonoko in surprise and then asked in confusion, is Aunt Tomoko a fairy trainer? Yes. And there are 2 months in my mother's name. Yuanzi said confidently. As for the previous Metrograss, Eminem probably did not train Tomoko himself, but the Suzuki group or Dago. Slim Shady. If you think about it this way, my name still has female and mother in it. Eminem rolled his eyes. Nazi, standing aside, glanced at Eminem with a look that said, you guys are really ignorant, and then said, yes, the real name also has mystical significance. Of course, Nazi didn't think that Pen could stand out among the fairy trainers just because of her name, but does it really mean that the power of the fairy system represents external force? Amu muttered. Yuanzi and the others didn't hear clearly, and after Nazi heard it, she just glanced at him and didn't explain much. After all, this kind of thing, there is no theorem, and it is difficult to explain it accurately. And Eminem naturally thinks of Mistmaker and Mistfield from Kapu Finfin. Mistfield can limit the power of dragon. Eminem has previously deduced that the essence of the dragon system is a certain force in nature that represents reconciliation and protection. Of course, the so-called nature also refers to the power of the native, that is, the earth. In other words, the pair of pathways, moon and mother, represent local and foreign forces respectively. Although they are adjacent, they represent 2 opposing forces. While Amu was thinking, Yuanzi suddenly said, ah, it's Mr. Tatsuji. Didn't you say you wanted to meet him before? He also pulled Amu. Tomizawa Tatsuji, Miss Ayako's fiancé and heir to the Tomizawa group. At the same time, it is also Eminem's focus. It's a small thing for the boy to be killed by the Minotaur, but it has a big impact on the ship. After hearing this, Eminem followed Yuanzi's gaze and found a young man who looked a little weak, but at first glance he didn't seem that disgusting. Mr. Tatsuji. Amu walked in and called. But this time, I saw Dagger, but he looked around for a moment. It didn't look like his name was being called at all, and then he immediately looked at Eminem. Ah, I know you. You are Eminem, right? Nice to meet you. After Dagger came to his senses, he immediately stretched out his hand and said. Seeing this, Eminem couldn't help but look at him suspiciously. This, aren't you Dagger? But kid is not so unprofessional, right? Nice to meet you. Amu shook hands with him and stared at him. For some reason, Eminem suddenly had a feeling that this person looks familiar. Face blindness, which makes it difficult for Eminem to recognize people he has only met once or twice, but it makes it twice as easy for Eminem to see people out similar. That is a bit presumptuous. Have we met before? Eminem confirmed. There shouldn't be, right? I was always in the Johto area before, and I haven't attended the Suzuki family's cocktail party in the past year. Tatsuji himself recalled in a panic. The more Eminem looked at this guy, the more suspicious he became. Adam's performance suddenly changed. Hearing bursts of exclamations, Eminem looked over and found that Conan was already over there, so he cautiously held the black pearl on his chest with his hands and moved closer. What's wrong? Eminem asked Conan in a low voice. At this moment, Kagoro already had a playing card in his hand. It was a warning letter from Kid, and he had obviously sneaked in. And Ayako was standing aside, looking a little at a loss. Miss Ayako was participating in magic just now. When she pulled out the playing cards, she found that they had been replaced by Kid's cards. Conan whispered to Eminem, you got it from the owner of Adam Hall. Eminem looked at Adam in amazement. Adam looked at Eminem helplessly. Who is this person? You don't have to say it so loud, right? Ahem. I mean, are you really the owner of Adam's Hall? Eminem looked at Adam suspiciously. Of course. Adam said matter-of-factly, and as he spoke, He released an extraordinary DISC line from the Pokeball. Very convincing self-proof. Ah. Sister, where are your pearls? Sonoko then discovered that the black pearl on Ayako's chest was missing. Huh. Oops. I was there just now. Ayako was also surprised. At this moment, a burst of mist suddenly eroded into the field. Exactly what Eminem had just thought of, a mist field. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present this magic show in this mysterious mist. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 405 Chaos. This is a mist venue. Be careful. Don't mess around. Do not release any Pokémon below King level outside of Junsha. In the banquet hall, as soon as the mist emitting a strange light pink light came out, someone immediately shouted in panic. Among kids Pokémon, there is an ice walking doll. It is not surprising that it can use Mist Field. Mist Field is a fairy type field effect. At first glance, it looks like pink mist. However, if you identify it carefully, you will find that it is not pink or mist, but a strange light that keeps flashing. But overall, it looks pink at first glance of mist. In the mist field, it is more difficult for Pokémon to fall into an abnormal state, and the power of the dragon type will be greatly weakened. Ah. Someone is attacking me. Wait. I mean no harm. What is this? Ghost. Kid is coming. Kid is coming. Kid is biting. Although some people are directing and comforting, it is obvious that there are also people fishing in troubled waters and deliberately causing chaos. Eminem is probably Kid's Pokémon or an accomplice. During the commotion, everyone still instinctively released their Pokémon to defend themselves. Eminem also released Ghost and Pippi, and did not sit still and wait for death. The banquet hall fell into chaos. Tomoko was about to fall backwards in the chaos. Mom. Ayako saw this and quickly stepped forward to help her, but she was a step too late, and Tomoko was directly supported by Eminem from behind. Aunt Tomoko, be careful. According to what Nana said just now, Eminem feels that the Dark Star is most likely on his chest now, and the second most likely one is the one on Aunt Tomoko's chest, so Eminem has been paying attention to it. With thank you, it's okay. Tomoko looked at the chaos. Her expression was not very good. Ah. At this moment, Ayako also exclaimed, and then fell on Tomoko. Eminem, who was behind, also staggered. At the same time, Tomoko also said angrily, damn it, look at me. Tomoko just wanted to take off her Dark Star Part 1, but failed. When she found that her brooch was missing, Tomoko immediately screamed. The real Dark Star can not only release mist field, but also use clear thick fog to dispel the field effect. After all, the characteristic of Capufin is that it comes with mist field effect and can also use clear dense fog. Even Capufin, who is truly the guardian of the four islands, can destroy a group of king level Pokémon just by emitting mist, and Tomoko didn't lie before. Dark Star was indeed randomly distributed just now, but she was very confident that she could get the real Dark Star. The principle is just as Nazi said, Dark Star will choose the right person by itself. And Tomoko not only tends to the fairy type, but is also a queen she would marry into the Suzuki family, partly because Dark Star chose her, and then she chose the honest Chiral. As for her talent in managing the group, it was developed after her marriage. Therefore, Tomoko is very confident about the ownership of Dark Star, but now, Tomoko found that her Dark Star was missing. After exclaiming, Tomoko angrily ordered to Metagross, Megrum, use the Iron Roller. Wait. Shirao and Adam both wanted to stop them, but they were still a step too late. Iron Roller can clear the field effect, but this is an attack skill. Although I didn't actively want to be aggressive, I just wanted to destroy the effect of the field. But such a big Metagross was rolling all over the field. It is true that wherever Metagross rolled, the pink mist dispersed, but at the same time, tables, chairs, and benches were flying around, and many Pokémon and humans were knocked upside down and mutilated. up and down. The scene suddenly became more chaotic, and Ayako stumbled and was about to leave. Careful. At some point, Kojiro came to the banquet hall and supported Ayako. Thank you. Ayako quickly thanked her, but found that Kojiro's expression was a little strange. This way, come with me. Kojiro didn't think much, and pulled Ayako to leave first. Ayako was stunned when she saw this. Wait, who are you? The fog has dispersed. Stay where you are and don't move. No one launched an attack at all. Please don't mess around. Why didn't anyone attack? A steel ball that big just rolled over and it hit me. After the fog dissipated, the scene gradually calmed down. At the same time, the experienced Yinsen police department had led people to block the door at the same time. Tatsuji saw Ayako and Kojiro just when Eminem felt that this was some interesting story. No, it was a morally corrupt Minotaur plot. Dower exclaimed. Second brother, Eminem, Ayako also wants to know, why does the eldest daughter of the Suzuki family seem to be very familiar with a member of Team Rocket, and her fiancé calls this member of Team Rocket's second brother? Aren't you the second child? Are rich people so good at playing? Kid silently reminded himself that he could no longer play the role of a young lady from such a wealthy family. This kind of interpersonal relationship was completely different from the one that had been investigated in advance. That's right, the current Ayako is Kid pretending. When the lights were turned off, the real Ayako made an excuse to go to the bathroom to find Tatsuji, and was knocked unconscious by Kid. Eminem suddenly realized at this moment. No wonder Tatsuji looked familiar. It turned out that he looked a bit like Kojiro. Tatsuji, Kojiro, could it be? Before Eminem could think of anything further, Ayako waved her hand fiercely and shook off Kojiro, and Eminem's eyes became more and more shining with the luster of eating melon. However, at the next moment, Ayako dug into her skirt, and there were several mysterious balls between her fingers. Kojiro? Without waiting for the people around her to react, Ayako threw the mysterious ball to the ground, and the next moment, smoke and dust began to appear everywhere. Be careful. It's a sleeping powder bomb. Everyone quickly held their breath, and the wind Pokémon on the scene started to fan the wind, blowing away the smoke in an instant. But Ayako had already disappeared. Outside, a man dressed as Junsha shouted at this time point just when Yumi and Jinzo were about to lead people to chase them out. Junsha, who had just shouted, covered his face with the brim of his hat and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. But before he could completely smile, a shadow of the outline of a sea lion suddenly enveloped him. It was the dire sea lion of the Adam Pavilion, approaching from behind. Kid. Is it interesting? Adam also stood in front of him and said. Chapter 406, Falling Short. When Kid was blocked by Adam, the owner of the gym, cold sweat broke out on his head. Although it was just to create a mystery and distract everyone's attention, it really ruined Adam's performance. It is conceivable that this old man is dissatisfied now. The owner of Adam, Kid wanted to fool him again. But before he could continue to quibble, Adam was already shuddering. When Eminem saw this, he was even more sure that Adam at least knew the previous generation of Kid, the father of the current Kid. Otherwise, Absolute Zero will definitely pass, and if you are not dead, then ask slowly. But the moment Adam's fist hit Kid's head, another burst of smoke and dust burst out, and only one piece of clothing was left on the spot. Eminem was also stunned for a moment. Kid also has the characteristic of painted skin. This time, Kid didn't dare to make any more waves. He saw a white shadow flash past, smashing the glass and exiting. However, he still tried his best to remain elegant in his posture, and, don't run. After Yinsen yelled a nonsense as usual, he led people to chase him towards the window. Just after Kid climbed out of the window, he gesticulated and lifted his cloak and swept it over the broken window, as if he was transforming into something. The next moment, groups of Junsha and Junsha's Pokémon slammed into the invisible wall. Astonishingly, the window was sealed with an invisible and colorless barrier. And now that they were on a cruise ship, Yinsen didn't dare to cause too much damage, so he could only get up quickly and run towards the door. Stop. Fortunately, Yumi had already led someone through the gate. At this time, most of the guests stayed at the scene. Only those who had confidence in themselves, or were too interested in catching the thief, such as a certain fake shooter, followed him out. Eminem hesitated for a moment, then looked at Tatsuji and Kojiro first, and saw that Kojiro also ran out in a hurry, probably to find Ayako herself, and found that there was no melon to eat here, so Eminem gave it a try. She ran also chased after him. Eminem was not too anxious, because he still felt that what was on his chest was the real Dark Star. After everyone chased them out, the aisles were a little crowded. After all, it was a cruise ship, not a hotel, so they were pushed and pushed, but they didn't move fast. At this time, people in other areas also noticed the excitement here. What the Suzuki group rented was not the entire ship, but the entire banquet hall on the top floor of the bow cabin. When they chased him to the top of the cabin, they saw that Kid had reached the highest viewing platform above the cabin. The full moon was rising just at this time. Don't be so excited. Let me soothe the moonlight first. Kid stretched out his hand in the direction of the moon, and there were 4 black pearls between his fingers. Obviously he couldn't tell which one it was before, but he stole all 4 possible ones, including Tomoko's one. He also felt that this one had the highest probability. However, the next moment, the bright moonlight shone down, and the 4 black pearls in Kid's hand showed no reaction except for leaving shadows on his face that gradually became frozen with embarrassment. Kid was also stunned when he saw this. What was wrong? Is there no genuine product at all? Or was there another choice, but I ignored it? This is in your place. How could? At this moment, a burst of exclamation came, and Kid immediately followed the sound and looked down. I saw the black pearl on Eminem's chest, shining brightly under the moonlight, constantly overflowing with a strange light that looked like a mist field. If Eminem actively activated it at this time, it should be able to release mist sight. Kid's face became even more ugly when he saw it. Was Eminem? He was also an acquaintance. Isn't this the same guy who used Mega Gyarados to attack me at the Nabi City Fossil Museum? At the same time, Kid was also wondering, could it be that it wasn't randomly distributed at all? Or is it that this guy's hands are faster than my eyes and he actually changed Mrs. Tomoko's pearls in advance? PFFT. Did that guy steal 4 fake ones? Come down if you can. Gissy, let me soothe the moonlight first. Leave me alone. I have to come down and grab Gissy. After all, I'm here to guard you. How dare you? I saw Pippi and Ghost Stone twisting their waists in circles overlapping each other and mocking each other. Note 1. Kid, go down. Go down and wait to be rectified on the spot by Adam. It seems that the moon goddess is not on my side this time, so see you next time. Kid said and was directly shattered by a freezing beam. Of course, what was broken was just a shadow. The next moment, the white wings rose into the wind because there was still a rotating Rotimer's power. Kid's Spiraglida could take off at any time, and it flew extremely fast. Even if a flying type king level Pokémon follows, Kid is sure to escape. Passengers on the deck and in other cabins saw the wild Kid flying by, and they all excitedly videotaped and gathered with friends to watch the fun. With the crowd gathering, Yinsen is even harder to track. Damn it. This little thief escaped again. Yinsen stamped his feet angrily. Well, at least the real Dark Star has not been stolen. Yumisen said in a tone. What? A nasty kid. Adam muttered at this time. Amu made a special observation. Adam sounded angry, but there was a smile on his lips, so he became even more suspicious. This guy was acting. It's not an accomplice, but there should be some release. Probably sensing the look in Adam's eyes, Adam coughed dryly and said, this kid can actually create a substitute for himself with the cooperation of Pokémon. If he uses it on the right path, he must be a very strong coordinator. It can be regarded as making amends for one's old horse's mistakes. Mom, when did you give Dark Star to Eminem for safekeeping? Sonoko was also very curious at this time, thinking it was Tomoko and Eminem's plan. But Tomoko also looked at Eminem with interest and said, no, this is Dark Star's own choice, right? Huh, I guess that's it. Eminem admitted that he didn't make any special arrangements. I didn't expect that he actually looks like me in this aspect. Tomoko muttered softly. Aunt Tomoko, what did you say? Eminem didn't hear clearly either. No, it's nothing. As long as it hasn't been stolen. This is a very important thing to the Suzuki family, far more than its value as jewelry. Okay, as agreed in advance, what Mega Evolution Stone do you want? If it is the Mega Evolution Stone of Bankerus, and the group now has a rough stone, that can be processed. Note 1. It's not easy to describe. Please see the demonstration in the previous Easter egg chapter for details. Chapter 407 Kagero's life experience. Tomoko was also surprised to find that, perhaps because of being around Eminem, Darkstar's popularity building effect was better than expected. Eminem was not polite. Since Aunt Tomoko had reminded him, he chose the Bangerous Mega Evolution Stone. It would be polished and sent over later. I guess it won't be long before I can use it. Yuanzi was still muttering to the side. In fact, he originally wanted to claim it as a loss for the mom classroom experiment. At this moment, another Junsha came over with a serious face. Looking at his appearance, he was undoubtedly the real Junsha, but his facial features were somewhat different from the Junsha Eminem had seen before. Looks to be in his 40s. After Yumi saw her, she was obviously a little frightened and saluted. Lee is on guard. What's going on? Didn't you say there won't be any danger? Lemmy said, dissatisfied. This without waiting for Yumi to quibble. Tomoko on the side spoke first. This Junsa. I applied to the property owner of the Santanu to rent the space. Kid was also informed about it. After your evaluation, you said that it can be provided. Are you ready to shirk now? Lemmy is the king of the Sinnoh region and the ship's companion of the Saint Tinu. He will stay on the ship throughout the voyage and be responsible for the safety of the ship. Not only is Yumi older and has a higher position than Yumi, but indeed during the voyage, in terms of Junsha's dispatch, the segmented Junsha accompanying him in various places was only auxiliary. Hearing that, Tomoko interpreted his actions as passing the blame. Lame's expression froze, and then said, no, I'm just arranging Junsha's internal affairs. I'm sorry to frighten you. I'll be on your journey later. We will provide stronger security before the end. No need. Kid has already left. Tomoko turned away directly. Tomoko didn't like people who pretended to be beep. Lame's face turned dark at this time. Lame was also dissatisfied with the cruise ship's arrangements. The most puzzling thing was, Yumi took the opportunity to collect the team, although it was Junsha Control who returned to SYNOPSIS. But, in the end, everyone was not in the same department, not even in the same regional police department. Looking at Yumi's back, Lame didn't understand. Kanto, no, how far had Junsha of the Quartz Alliance fallen? Why was she promoted to police status? Are you still blatantly gilding the Santanu? How can there be so much credit? After Eminem glanced at Lamy Junsha, he immediately left and went back to look for Zoai and Nana, but they did not follow. By the way, Eminem also wants to find out if there is any follow-up to Ayako and Kagero's relationship. Previously, Tatsuji called Kagero's second brother, which made Eminem vaguely guess, there's a woman here who's fainted. Hell. Her out first. Wait, I saw Kagero hurriedly carrying his clothes, including his underwear. He looked like a pervert, which made several Junshas around him become extremely alert. And Ayako is in a coma. The clothes are still in good condition. Apparently what Kagero picked up at the scene was the same clothes that Kid had prepared in advance, and Kid's original flavor. Kid's chic appearance when performing is often overlooked by people. In fact, he also works very hard when preparing in advance. This is also the criterion for coordinators and magic performances. Moreover, when Kid takes clothes, he will not take them directly from women. If he wants to pretend to be a woman, he will prepare it in advance, and he will not choose a woman on the spur of the moment. Of course, the premise is that he knows that the target is a woman. Well, wait. I'm not a pervert. Listen to my excuses. Just when Kagero was about to explain to the Junshas, Ayako woke up. Tatsuji, you are Tatsuji, right? Ayako looked at Kagero and said, well, or am I a pervert? Kagero wanted to run away, but Junsha and his friends had already left as they saw that nothing was wrong here. When Eminem came over with Nana and Zioai, he only saw Kagero bowing to Ayako and saying, sorry. I still want to be Team Rocket's Kagero. I think we are not suitable. After Saying that, he turned around and left. This embarrassing scene made Eminem quickly pull Nana and ZOAI into hiding. What's going on? Why does it seem like Sister Ayako's confession was rejected? In order to avoid being discovered, Eminem also covered Nana's mouth. I didn't notice that at the moment of covering up. Nana's pupils flashed red. In addition, after Eminem hid in this corner, he discovered that Musashi and Meow were also hiding here at this time, and it seemed that they had been peeking before, and Musashi is also using the exact same posture, covering the mouth of this Meow. In fact, it is quite different from what Eminem had guessed before. Kajiro's real name is Tatsuji and Tomizawa Tatsuji, that is, the second young master of the Tomizawa group. He and Miss Ayako of the Suzuki group are childhood sweethearts, and they even had an engagement since childhood. But later, because Kajiro didn't like this kind of life, he ran away from home, changed his name to Kajiro, and joined the Rockets. Of course, Tomizawa group didn't discover this, and Sakaki actually knew his identity. At the same time, the Tomizawa group was greatly embarrassed when faced with Ayako, who was engaged. The Tomizawa family asked the third child Zyung-san to pretend to be Tatsuji and meet Ayako. I hope to cultivate the relationship first and then announce this matter. On the one hand, the eldest son is not doing his job properly. If the second eldest son continues to do this, the Tomizawa family will also feel very uncomfortable. On the other hand, the headquarters of the Tomizawa group is in the Johto area after all, and the cleansing of the Rockets has not yet been completed. Moreover, the whitewash mainly targets the Kanto region, so Fuse Group does not want to put its relationship with Team Rocket in the open. Ayako acted a little strange before, because she noticed that Tatsuji was a bit strange. Even though she hadn't seen him for many years, she still felt strange. In fact, Musashi recently discovered that Kajiro is weird, hence the scene where they are both following each other now. Eminem and Musashi were making silence gestures to each other until Ayako also left. Although Kajiro couldn't help but appear in front of Ayako, but just to make his words clear, sure enough, he still prefers being Kajiro of Team Rocket rather than Master Tatsuji of Tomizawa Group. He is worthy of being my partner, Musashi said happily. That's great. Meow. Meow Meow also said at this time. Not to mention Eminem. Even Nana looked over with a little curiosity at this time. Did the cat speak just now? Is this really a vibration of the vocal cords? Team Rocket is the best, Musashi celebrated in a low voice. She probably thought that Kajiro might be going home before. But Eminem obviously didn't understand Kajiro's approach and couldn't help but muttered, no, 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 it doesn't matter whether the Rockets are good or not. The problem is that if he stays with the Rockets, it won't be his turn to take over in this life, right? Chapter 408. This egg is so big. The Sonoko family, except for Sonoko, disembarked at Lamperky Port, and a large number of guests who came specifically because of the invitation of the Suzuki group also disembarked at this time. Afterwards, the Sentinel will sail to Ashwood Town in western Kanto, the port where Amu landed, before going to Zenxin Town. After Ashwood Town, the Sentinel will sail all the way south, sailing into the sea, passing Kizzy Island and Orange Islands, and then head west to the Chengdu area. And Nana suddenly became very interested in the baby cup on the ship in the past 2 days, and even wanted to encourage Eminem to participate, because there are people on the ship at any time. You can participate in this competition at any time. Anyway, it is a matching points system. The finals before arriving in the Johto region. Isn't it necessary? I don't have any Pokémon at level 40 or 50 right now, Eminem said in confusion. Polygon. That's very crucial, Nazi said seriously. Polygon? Amu looked a little strange when he heard this. That's right. The prize for the baby cup held by Sakaki on the ship was a polygon point. But Nana obviously doesn't know that Eminem has a pyramid egg, but its egg doesn't look like an egg, but is in a USB flash drive point, and there seems to be some problems with Eminem's egg. Why? Do you suddenly want a polygon? Amu asked curiously. Chakra. There is probably something wrong, Nazi said seriously. Chakra. Oh, that genius programming boy, right. Eminem also realized at this time it was the boy who was staring at Nana before. Nana. Also told Eminem that the guy looked young, but secretly he was one of Team Rocket's 7 generals. In fact, when talking about the genius programming boy, Eminem thought of another person. I remembered him, but not completely. Eminem also forgot his name point, but I remember that he programmed the ultimate program Noah's Ark. That's right, not a character in Pokémon, but a key character in Conan and the theatrical version of the Dead on Baker Street. When the plot of the theatrical version begins, he is already dead, but the Noah's Ark he created still carries out his will. What's wrong with Chakra? Eminem asked in confusion. Nana clearly regarded him as one of her own last time. I suspect the boss Sakaki I saw before was pretending. Nazi was inspired by the kid incident 2 days ago and felt that boss Sakaki's reaction at that time was a bit strange. Eminem, on the other hand, didn't take it too seriously and even thought that her level was not high enough. If this is the case, Chakra is on the same side as those traitors, Nazi said confidently. So, are you going to take advantage of boss Sakaki to present the award to confirm with him again? Eminem still didn't understand Nana's thinking. No, those people have probably noticed me now. If I look for boss Sakaki at this time, I will probably be tricked. Sure enough, I still have to rely on myself. Nazi said matter-of-factly. Boss Sakaki is the person Nazi trusts the most besides herself. However, Nazi trusts him at least 10 times more than she trusts Sakaki. So, Eminem still didn't understand what this had to do with the baby cup or polygon on the ship. If Chakra also participates in the rebellion, compared to his Pokémon, his biggest enemy is the intrusion of the program. There are also a lot of computer-controlled equipment on this ship, right? Nazi didn't understand this very well. Just a superficial statement. That's right. Amu nodded after hearing this and continued to look at her inquiringly. I heard Porygon is a Pokémon born from programming. If that exists, maybe it can be. Nazi's idea was simple. Slim Shady. This idea is so simple that Eminem is speechless. Well, many programmers lose their hair, but that doesn't mean that if I pull out my hair, I will naturally learn to program. Do you understand what I mean? Eminem explained to Nana. This logic point, it is true that many first-line programmers have their own polygons, and even after basic breeding, they will write their own code into the eggs of the polygons. But how could a genius like Chakra be rivaled by a polygon? Even if someone like Eminem, who doesn't know how to program, gets a polygon, he still can't make it work in this regard. Nazi, after thinking about it for a while, Nazi frowned, then sighed and said, isn't it really possible? Wait a minute. Let's talk about this. I'll go find an expert later and remind him to be careful. Eminem was going to go find Dr. Ali later. Drive. Ali is also on board the ship at Kauai Port. Although he doesn't know how talented that Chakra is, Eminem believes that Dr. Air's strong hairstyle is not for nothing, and he should not be weaker than others. By the way, Eminem can also show Dr. Air to see if there is anything wrong with his polygon egg. Could it be possible that polygon egg can also be hit by a Trojan horse? And after hearing Nana talk about Chakra, Zioai's face gradually became serious, and she kept looking at Eminem, obviously trying to hint him something. For example, speaking of programming geniuses, Team Flare should be in high demand. Judging from the incident at the Tokiwa Twin Towers, there is a certain connection between the Dark Organization and the Team Rocket Rebellion. Calculating it this way, Chakra is indeed dangerous. In the afternoon, Amu went to look for Conan, only to find that Kagoro was reasoning in his sleep and solved a Pokémon kidnapping case. I saw that Yumi arrested the prisoner and found the banned forced restraint elf ball on the spot and recovered the kidnapped leather baby. Mr. Chumu also talked to Eminem before about the role of the elf ball. It's basically the same, except the forced restraint type Pokeball is different and generally puts a lot of burden on the user's body. After solving the case, Eminem showed up. Although he lamented that there had been huge loopholes in the moral and legal system on the Centino since someone boarded the ship, but Eminem felt that it was a good time to come to Conan. At least this way he can cool down for a while. Conan, don't interfere with Sister Junsha's handling of the case. Come, brother, Eminem will play with you. Eminem pulled Conan away. Upon seeing this, Yumi thanked him. This kid is always wandering around the scene, so I'll leave it to you, Conan. After pulling Conan away to a secluded place, Conan immediately shook off Eminem's hand. What's the matter? Based on his experience, Eminem must be asking for something from himself. Is Dr. Ailey on the ship? Which cabin is it? I want him to help me check this, Eminem said and took out a USB flash drive. Repair the USB flash drive? Conan asked curiously. No, this is the egg of Porygon, because he was still unsure. Eminem did not mention Team Rocket or Dark Organization. Conan curled his lips in disappointment. Just now he thought it was information related to the Dark Organization. However, Conan still used the detective badge first, and after confirming with Dr. Ali, he took Eminem to a certain cabin on the second floor. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with Porygon's egg? Dr. Ali had already heard about it from Conan, and asked directly, as soon as he opened his mouth. That's right, I don't know why, but my Polygon egg seems a bit big. Chapter 409 Artificial Pokémon. Dr. Ali inserted Eminem's USB flash drive into his laptop, and then used a special Polygon egg hatching program to run the files inside. I saw a huge mosaic egg appear on the screen. At the same time, Dr. Ali could also see some data on the egg. Although Eminem couldn't understand it, at least he saw several items that were however, among the data that can be seen, the amount of the most basic data has already surprised Dr. Ali. This is really not that big. Dr. Ali looked at him in surprise. Eminem's Polygon egg was already almost 3G. This is almost 10 times that of ordinary Polygon eggs. A normal Polygon can be hatched when it reaches 365 megabytes, and after being converted from data to entity, its weight is also 36.5 kilograms. Where did this Polygon egg come from? Dr. Ali couldn't help but ask. A gift from a friend. Eminem said that he was not cheating, and then asked, is it due to individual differences? Indeed, many programmers will write some code into the formed Polygon egg. If successful, it can make the direction of their qualifications and personality tend to be what they have guided. It can even make the Polygon egg, when it is born, just learn some skills directly. However, there are very few that can reach 400 megabytes, because after it exceeds 365 megabytes, it can be hatched at any time, and once the hatching is successful, although the Polygon itself still has the ability to digitize, it can no longer directly write code. But this egg can survive until now. It actually grows slowly on its own. There is no internet connection. This is the first time I have seen this happen. Wait a moment, Dr. Ali said, while releasing his Porygon Type 2 Polygon. Type 2 inches is the evolved form of Polygon. In theory, there is a higher level final evolutionary form Polygon Z-type. Eminem has seen Polygon Z-type in Herajarming's place. Butyl thou Polygon Z-type is the evolution of Polygon Type 2. The racial value improvement is very small, and after evolving into Polygon Z-type, the behavior of the Polygon will become weird and uncontrollable. Therefore, many programming trainers believe that the upgrade patch of Polygon Z-type is imperfect. In actual applications, many programming trainers only use Polygon Type 2 Polygon. Type 2 inches looks like its head, body, feet, tail are all more rounded than Polygon, which can also be understood as having higher resolution, so it is no longer a block. After Dr. Agassi's Polygon Type 2 was released, he drilled directly into the monitor and came to the monitor. Of course, if this unscientific scene is explained scientifically, it means that Polygon 2 entered the computer in the form of data point. In such a comparison, Eminem's Polygon egg looks even bigger. It's obviously just an egg, but it's several times larger than Porygon Type 2. Drive. Agassi's Polygon Type 2 suddenly became smaller in front of Eminem's egg, because it doesn't appear in reality. When there is no comparison, you can't feel anything. But now that you have a reference, you can immediately feel its bigness in terms of volume. I saw Polygon Type 2 shaking its head slightly, as if it was saying something to egg, and egg also swayed slightly at this time, seeming to respond. Dr. Ali stared at their reaction and said, it seems there is no problem. It is almost hatched and has preliminary consciousness. You should have more contact with it at this stage. Placing Pokémon eggs can increase your natural favorability. Dr. Ali also didn't understand why Eminem's egg was so big. But I can be sure that there is nothing wrong with the egg, just wait until it hatches. It's just that Polygon is not a pumpkin family or a sea Pokémon, so the size difference between individuals should not be too big. What are they talking about specifically? Amu confirmed to Dr. Ali. Hahaha, how do I know? Dr. Ali smiled and then said matter-of-factly, Slim Shady, the language between polygons is difficult to understand. Even if it is really bonded with its own polygon enough to be able to communicate with polygons, it will not be able to convey to you the content of its communication with other polygons. Because it's basically communication at different levels of logic. Can you understand? As an old Porygon fan, Dr. Eri gave Eminem some common sense. Eminem really doesn't understand this aspect. After all, the Porygon family is all normal. Moreover, Polygon is the only man-made Pokémon with many special features. Generally speaking, there are very few trainers who can tame Polygon for the purpose of battle. They are usually programmers. It is said that its upgrade method is also different from ordinary Pokémon. At least training Polygon in the same way as ordinary Pokémon will be very inefficient. On the contrary, after it is digitized, writing code for it is the fastest growth rate. Although Polygon can no longer be directly written into code, after it is hatched, it can still be patched and written indirectly. Its evolution method is also a special patch. Moreover, the relationship between the programmer and Polygon is different from that of ordinary Pokémon, similar to the stupid Rotom, but somewhat different, more like an artificial intelligence that needs guidance. Hearing Dr. Ali talk to him about this, Eminem suddenly felt that this Polygon beast might not be suitable for him. By the way, can you show it to me after it hatches? I'm also curious as to why it's so big. Dr. Ali said curiously. Of course. Eminem agreed. If it weren't for the fact that it was so big, Eminem was also curious about why it was so big and had some special expectations, so he would probably have passed it on to Dr. Ali by now. After all, Eminem can't write code, and it's even more impossible for him to change his career as a programmer just for the sake of a Polygon. Now Eminem has made up his mind that if he cannot cultivate this Polygon beast well, he will transfer it to other people, such as experts like Dr. Ali. Ali, actually, there is one more thing. Eminem suddenly became more serious. What's wrong? Do you have anything magical? Dr. Ali said with interest. That's not the case, but I now suspect that this ship may suffer some attacks in the future, and it may be related to Team Rocket and the Dark Organization. Eminem said very seriously. Conan and Dr. Ali said in surprise at the same time. Especially the former. He really wants to ask Eminem, you should tell me this. What did you say to Dr. Ali? Chapter 410 Genius. Then have you reported to Junsha? Dr. Ali asked quickly. No, I'm not sure yet, and there are probably undercover agents of the Dark Organization in Junsha, right? Considering that they may be operating on this ship, the probability that there are people from them among the people accompanying Junsha on the ship is probably very high. Eminem said matter-of-factly. No, it's not very high, it's definitely. Conan emphasized at this time. He now understands more and more how meticulous the actions of the Dark Organization are. Although there are a lot of fake wine within the Dark Organization, but they can always arrange real wine or watered down wine, peripheral members, in unexpected places. If there is a reliable and trustworthy Junsha on the ship, it would be fine to inform them privately one-on-one. Otherwise, if there is a full alert, the Dark Organization will know that the ship is on alert in less than 2 minutes. It's a pity that there is no Junsha on board now who has both the qualities of reliability and trust. But, you tell me this. Dr. Ali's expression was a little tangled. Was it to let me get off the ship at the next station to avoid being implicated? As for the others, my Porygon and Rotom, although their combat power is not low, they are not very good at fighting. As far as I know, there may already be experts in programming from the Dark Organization on the ship. The intelligence system on the ship may also be in trouble by then, so I hope you can be on guard in this regard during this time. Amu asked. I see, don't worry. If it's anything else, I can't do anything, so I'll leave this aspect to you. Dr. Ailey suddenly understood after hearing this and agreed generously. Eminem actually doesn't understand the development of information technology in this world. In the past few years, Eminem has somewhat adapted to the world's rapid pace of scientific development. Human beings in this world began to play with science, which happened in the past 200 years during the Alliance era. But they directly pushed technology to the level equivalent to the near future before Eminem traveled, except for the defects in wireless signals. But this is understandable. After all, with Pokémon as a plugin for the entire world, many technologies can be implemented crudely, and it is understandable that a journey of several hundred years can be completed in 200 years. However, when it comes to software programming, why do I feel like the bricks are flying out of the sky? Although Eminem doesn't know anything profound, he at least knows that the programs and data storage devices in this world are very large, even if they are in gigabytes. For example, the 8G USB flash drive in his hand is equivalent to a cutting-edge product in this world. Note 1. Is this level not as good as before time travel? Why is the implemented function so powerful? Among other things, the operating system of the Sentinel is highly intelligent. If you look at the control room, you will find various ROTMs attached to various instruments, and the monitor also has various polygons will appear. Is it because there are data level Pokémon like Porygon and Pokémon that can give intelligence to electrical appliances like ROTM? There may be other reasons. It's a pity that Eminem doesn't know programming and can't compare the differences between the two worlds. After asking Dr. Ailey to ask for help, Eminem had nothing to do in this regard, but Conan. Ever since he left Dr. Ailey's cabin, he had been chasing Eminem asking questions. I simply want to know Eminem's source of information and the specific circumstances under which an attack may occur. After much consideration, Eminem still selectively told Conan, mainly because Eminem himself didn't know much about it. Eminem estimates that the reason why Nana has not been rumored is, to a large extent, not only to prevent insiders, but also because she does not want to expose the family scandal. Eminem does not understand this very well. At your level, you can be considered a rocket team. Consider it your own home. But Eminem obviously has no such concerns, and the rocket's reputation has nothing to do with Eminem. You mean, during the voyage, Team Rocket may have civil strife, and it involves the Dark Organization being an undercover agent in Team Rocket? Conan understood what Eminem meant. For now, it's just a possibility. Eminem emphasized, and he won't be held responsible if he guesses wrong. So, the possible system intruder you reminded Dr. Agassa is Chakra. Conan said suddenly. How do you know? Eminem was also a little surprised. Even Eminem himself didn't know about Chakra before. I saw a report on the internet before. The theme was the mysterious suicide of Hiroki, one of the two programming geniuses. It also mentioned another genius, Chakra. Although it did not explicitly say that he was a cadre of Team Rocket, it hinted he knows Sakaki very well. Conan explained. Unfortunately, there is no signal on the ship. Satellite signals are inherently weak in this world's technology, so Eminem cannot see the original report. Conan can only repeat it as best he can. Now Conan at least knows that Sakaki is the boss behind the rockets, although in recent publicity, they are more inclined to portray Sakaki as the savior who has only recently begun to take power and reform the rockets. But Conan is obviously not that easy to fool. Hiroki? Amu was stunned when he heard this. It's the one who was trained by the Hezhang area and the Schindler group. It is said that he was also from Kanto before. Conan thought that Eminem didn't know Hiroki. Suicide? When did it happen? Eminem has already remembered that this Hiroki should be the creator of Noah's Ark in the Conan movie version 3 months ago. Conan said after recalling. What? A pity. Eminem said with emotion. Hiroki should be just 10 years old now, right? At the same time, the model workers of the Dark Organization, Gin and Vodka, had already appeared in the office of the president of the Hezhang district and the Schindler Group. Not only is the Schindler Group one of the funding organizations for Team Flare, but Schindler himself is also an important collaborator of Team Flare. Mr. Schindler, it's Noah's Ark, still unable to operate? The boss is already in a hurry. Jin conveyed the mysterious boss's meaning. Do you think I'm not in a hurry? How do I know that boy Hiroki will Fortunately, this Noah's Ark will improve itself. Even if it is incomplete, it will gradually become complete through self-learning. 2 years. It will be about 2 years later. Schindler, as an important collaborator of Team Flare, did not have a good attitude towards Jin. Jin didn't say much about this, and just asked about the disappearance of some of the previous information. Oh, are you asking me? Isn't it because your interface is accessed by external networks? Schindler sneered. No. Jin stopped the angry vodka, glanced at Schindler, and turned away. This is exactly why they wanted to find you and Jiaming before. Noah's Ark, like a truly conscious creature, actually escaped part of it when accessed by an external network. According to Schindler, Noah's Ark could have perfected itself and could be operational in 2 years, but Jin always felt that part of escaping would never stop. Note 1. Since it is another world, of course it is in another language, but when it is written as a novel, I have to translate it back to G and translate it back to Chinese characters. It does not mean that it is really Chinese characters or G. This should be no need to explain much, just saying it just in case. As for why the friend in another world is also 2 months, and the Mew in another world is also female plus mother. Isn't it a coincidence? Chapter 411 Fishing. Alliance Year 200, September 28th. It has been 2 days since the Santanu sailed out of Ashwood Port, and it is about to sail out of Deadleaf Bay and enter the open sea. In the early morning of the 29th, Eminem, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly felt something in his heart. After getting up, he tiptoed to the sofa and shook Nazi, who was sitting cross-legged and floating on the sofa. Nana, come on, come with me. Eminem ignored Nana's unhappy look at her meditation being interrupted and made a follow gesture. Nazi was puzzled, so she followed him for the time being. I saw Eminem come out of the cabin, first went down to the deck, and then came to the side of the ship. At this time, a crew member discovered Eminem and Nana. Because there was no special scenery nearby, it was early in the morning, and it was still early before sunrise, so there was no one on the deck. In addition, Eminem is also carrying a child, which makes it even more conspicuous. Sir, do you need any help? The crew member came over and asked. Eminem didn't specifically avoid anyone. He said carelessly, "It's okay, I want to take a shot. I feel there is a gem starfish nearby. Considering that I may need to capture Pokémon later, having a fishing rod seems more normal." This fishing rod was bought by Eminem in Ashwood Town. It is not an ordinary fishing rod, but is used to catch Pokémon. At the front end of the hanging wire is a signal transmitting device, which can also be replaced with a Pokémon food cage as needed. And line is so long that it can even be swung on a cruise ship. One of the characteristics of Pokémon fishing rods. The crew member obviously did not expect this kind of answer. He said in surprise and doubt, "Huh? Now? And this is not a sea area with a high density of starfish. You can wait for 2 days. It's okay, it'll be quick." Without waiting for his recommendation, Eminem waved his hand. "Do I still know if there are gem starfish here?" Then I saw him taking Nana directly to the side of the boat. The crew members obviously thought this guy was weird. They watched Eminem's performance all the way and even considered whether to report to Juncture Point, but there was no need for him to think too much. Eminem just swung the shot symbolically. From his actions, the crew could tell this was a newbie. However, within 5 seconds, Eminem, who was perfunctory, had already stopped playing, and there was also a huge gem starfish that jumped onto the deck with him. Well, after all, the sea breeze was quite cool at night, so Eminem didn't act too much. The average height or average diameter of gem starfish is 1.1 meters. However, the size difference between individual Pokémon in the ocean is quite large, which may be related to the environment. Wild, high-level Pokémon that are captured directly in the ocean often have larger sizes, and the current gem starfish looks to be 2.5 meters in diameter, standing much taller than Eminem. The crew member was also stunned for a moment. As a crew member who has been drifting on the sea all year round, he certainly understands the situation of ocean Pokémon. What is this operation? Moreover, he has not seen such a large wild gem starfish too many times. I'm afraid it is already a king level 1, right? Although the ocean is as curly as the deep mountains and old forests, especially the distant sea, which is more curly than anywhere on land, it is still difficult to see the wild king of heaven. After all, the sea is also very big. Look, I just said yes, Eminem said to Nana, after patting the gem starfish point Nazi crew member. Wait a minute. The crew member was confused all the time, but when he saw that Amu was about to lead the gem starfish directly back to the cabin, he stopped him. Wild. Pokémon are not allowed to enter the cabin area, are you? The crew member made a gesture like throwing a ballpoint. Eminem was stunned for a moment when he heard this, and the next moment, Nana pretended to hold hands and stuffed him with a poke ballpoint. Eminem was also a little hesitant. The king level Pokémon, Dragon Scale Talisman, can be ordered to help, but whether it can be subdued still depends on Eminem himself. For water type Pokémon, Eminem does not have any special bonuses at the moment point, but at this moment, I saw Nana walking in front of Gem Starfish. Under the reflection of the red gem of Gem Starfish, Nana's pupils seemed to have turned red. Unfortunately, because of this she had already turned his back to Eminem, so Eminem didn't notice point. Then Eminem had no choice but to try and throw Nana's elf ball over. Pokémon can feel the belonging of the Pokéball. This is just to hide it in front of the crew. After all, such a young child generally cannot use the Pokéball. I saw that the gem starfish not only refused to dodge, but after being put into the elf ball, after shaking it for a few times, it actually dodged the light effect of successful capture point. When Eminem saw this, he was secretly relieved. Point. It seems that the communication between Nana and Gem Starfish is going quite smoothly. Point. Eminem wasn't too surprised by this. After all, Gem Starfish is also a super type Pokémon. With Nana's ability, it's not surprising that it can be conquered. I was just a little worried before. Point. At the same time, after returning to the room, Nana also looked excited. She never expected that she could actually pick up a king level wild gem starfish. About how many are needed? Amu asked Nana. Point. As far as Eminem knows, when super type trainers meditate with Pokémon, it's not that stronger is better or more is better. They always have to consider their own mental endurance, as well as their bonds. The lower it is, the greater the pressure will naturally be. For the king level, the more, the better, Nana said loudly. Point. Of course. In fact, Nazi was not as indifferent as she acted. In fact, she was very surprised. Although to her, a king level Pokémon was nothing, but she casually attracted a king level wild Pokémon. What kind of trick is this? But Nazi wouldn't show surprise in front of Eminem, and she didn't mean to ask. Okay, once we get out of Dryleaf Bay and reach the open sea, there should be more. Amu said in a tone of there are more wildcats in the neighborhood next door. Let me abduct a few more for you. Nazi's eyes also shone slightly at this time. If she could really gather more king level Pokémon, although it was not as good as her original configuration, it could still shorten the time for her to restore her basic combat power to half a month. At the same time, Eminem is also making his own preparations. After leaving Deadleaf Bay and arriving at the open sea, the biological structure of the ocean also began to change. Point. In shore carp, deep sea tench. In the open sea, the number of fish in the animal sense decreases, and the number of weak tench, which is the bottom layer of the Pokémon bottom layer, increases and fills the bottom layer. And weak tench can be said to be the Pokémon most suitable for exerting the ability of Dragon Scale Talisman. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 412. Be prepared. Alliance Year 200, September 29th. Eminem was in the room at this time, looking at the detailed information on weak tench in the illustrated book, even including some related papers. Although there was no signal on the ship, Eminem had been thinking about the weak tench for a long time, so when he was in Ashwood Town, he downloaded its detailed information while there was a signal. Point. Tench, the weakest Pokémon known in the world. In the game, its racial value is 175, but in this real Pokémon world, its racial value is incalculable. After all, The race value is originally a statistical value of human beings. When it is weak enough to be an outlier in statistics, it is difficult to give it a numerical value under a set of calculations. Just like when the level is low, the estimation of combat effectiveness is actually difficult. Yes, theoretically, the difference in combat power between level 1 and level 2 Pokémon is nearly double, but in reality it is a 50-50 split. Only when a certain level is reached, does combat power become a meaningful statistic. Because weak Tench is too weak, it was only recognized as a Pokémon after the Alliance era. A single weak Tench basically cannot exert much combat power. What are you doing looking at the information about Tench? ZioAI looked at Eminem in confusion. I think the Tench is quite special. Amu tentatively replied. After all, Amu didn't know whether his idea could be realized at this time, so he didn't speak too safely. Indeed, such a weak Pokémon has academic significance in classifying Pokémon and ordinary animals. ZioAI actually nodded seriously. It seems that she is surprised. You can actually see the academic significance. Indeed, there are of course ordinary animals in this world, and there are far more types than Pokémon. There are millions of types of animals that have been discovered, but there are only thousands of Pokémon. If Pokémon in an evolutionary chain are counted as one type, there are only a few hundred species. It is said that there is an absolute barrier between the two. Not only is it powerful, but there are also many Pokémon specific properties, such as egg group reproduction, evolution, high growth range, mastering the power of various systems, and the most important, convergent evolution, from a biological perspective. The biggest difference between Pokémon and ordinary animals is not the power they possess, but the fact that they have very few subspecies. With the diversity of Pokémon forms, it is said that there should be tens of thousands of species. However, they have evolved to convergently, and there are almost no subspecies or branches in essence. This is also determined by the genetic expression form of Pokémon, which is completely different from ordinary animals. Regarding the explosion of Pokémon species 2 million years ago, one theory of origin is that a special force caused countless species of creatures, possibly tens of thousands or even more species, to begin to evolve in a highly similar direction. At that time, hundreds of animals will evolve in the same direction, and within a few generations, this convergent evolution will be completed. Of course, because this kind of thing is a bit too mysterious to think about, the idea of alien visitors is even more popular. In short, there is an essential difference between Pokémon and animals. It does not mean that animals become stronger when they become Pokémon. In fact, some weak Pokémon are not as effective as beasts in the wild. It's just that before the Alliance era, humans didn't have the concept of science. At that time, they were only distinguished by strength and weakness, and the weak Tench was too weak. On land, the living space of beasts has basically been squeezed out by Pokémon. However, there are still many ferocious sharks and other predators in the ocean. Because weak Tench is too weak and has too low intelligence, this also makes weak Tench the only Pokémon that can be used as food by ferocious ordinary animals in the ocean. Pokémon prey on each other more obviously than on land, but generally speaking, they still prey on ordinary animals. However, because the weak Tench is too weak and has about the same intelligence as ordinary fish, even smart dolphins and whales cannot match it. It is completely treated as an ordinary animal, and even ordinary animals can eat it. Even in the Alliance era, various academic categories appeared, and there were so many differences between Pokémon and ordinary animals. At the beginning of the Alliance era, weak Tench was not discovered to be a Pokémon. It wasn't until 100 years ago that controversy began. On the one hand, the scope of human activities has expanded. Due to the development of the ocean, the fish school effect of Tench has been discovered in the distant sea. On the other hand, human beings have developed to the point of wanting to understand the world. Research scholars, the number of fish has increased, and a professional team has demonstrated that the in vitro eggs of weak Tench are actually a kind of Pokémon eggs. This led people to put forward the hypothesis that weak Tench is a Pokémon. It was not until 50 years ago that a genetic laboratory in Alala demonstrated that the genes of weak Tench are of the same type as Pokémon. This completely vindicates the name of weak Tench. But even So, weak tench is also listed separately in the Pokémon protection laws of major alliances. A large number of Pokémon protection measures do not include weak tench. Only prohibited eating basic measures like this are still their point. Eminem can also understand that the human beings in this world have laws and regulations regarding the protection of Pokémon, and the moral sense they have towards Pokémon is by no means a holy act, but a matter of course. Point after all, the human society in this world can operate to the height it is today, relying on Pokémon. Not to mention there are so many real mythical beasts. The anti-Pokémon society idea of individual organizations is destined not to be the mainstream of humans in this world. If you have this time, you can help me find a few more gem starfish, the ones above the king level. Nazi couldn't stand it anymore. At this time, Eminem was still reading a book leisurely, so she reminded them, "Don't worry, I'm keeping an eye on it. If there's anyone nearby, I'll find it. What I'm doing now is also very important. It's an extra layer of protection." Eminem said confidently. Nazi didn't understand what the relationship between weak tench and security was, but she didn't ask in detail. Of course she couldn't guess that Eminem was accumulating tench fish. King level wild jewel starfish are hard to find, but wild weak tench are not available in abundance. Currently, there are hundreds of weak tench traveling around the Centino. This is the result of Eminem's careful selection. Eminem didn't want any weak tench that were too weak individually. A single weak tench has too low a racial value, has no statistical value, cannot mobilize water power, cannot use water skills, and personally speaking, there is no growth at all. However, Eminem discovered that there is still a difference between strong and weak, but they are all too weak, so it is not obvious at the same time. Eminem also discovered that it is the stronger weak tench that are easier to command and form fish schools without screening. Even if Amu uses a dragon scale talisman, he will not be able to gather more than 1,000 fish schools. Now Eminem is also gathering and sifting at the same time. I hope to be able to truly gather a decisive number of tench with decisive fighting power. Before, Eminem had imagined that if he could gather 100,000 or 1 million tench, wouldn't Kaiga also have to do it, staying away? But now it seems that this is unrealistic. The weak tench itself cannot gather so many. After all, the fish school form is not just about swimming together, but also the energy of the weak tench being connected to form a huge group body. Chapter 413 Fish School. Alliance Year 200, October 2nd. In the restaurant of the Santo Anu, Eminem, who was serving XD Banquilus, suddenly excitedly said, "It's done." What happened? Zyarksha on the side looked at Eminem in confusion, and then at Bangjira's egg in confusion. What I'm talking about is, Eminem just wanted to say, what he said was not that Banquilus eggs were ready, but just when Eminem felt that the weak tench thing was a bit unexplainable, he just listened. Click, there was a crisp sound, and a crack appeared on the Bangjira's egg in front of me. It's about to hatch. Zyarksha and others immediately looked at the egg nervously. Just when Eminem was worried that he had been too excited and crushed the egg with too much force, he saw a burst of light flashing along the crack. Then the eggshell was completely broken, and only a small young Kyrus appeared in the eggshell with only half left, with a piece of broken eggshell on its head. Of course it couldn't have been crushed. How could a rock-type Pokemon's egg be broken so easily? Yoha, yoha. Ugilith shouted. The average height of baby Chillis is 60 centimeters, but they will be smaller when they are born. In the next few days, they will grow to normal size. This is also one of the differences between Pokémon and ordinary animals, including humans. Adulthood cannot be determined by size. Except for Pokémon that are just a few days old, all others can reach around the standard size. Being interrupted by the birth of young Killis, Zyarksha and others naturally thought that Eminem's become meant this, and Eminem didn't explain much. At the same time, many people in the restaurant noticed something strange here and applauded the birth of a new life. There were so many people in the restaurant. After thanking everyone, Eminem hugged the newborn baby. Lars leaves well. It will only weigh about 70 kilograms when it grows up, but now it should only weigh more than 20 kilograms. Eminem can hold it very easily. Back in the room, Eminem immediately took out the special food for young Killis that he had prepared. Newly born Pokémon will eat more. After all, they will grow rapidly. However, the "it's done" that Eminem said before was not because of the birth of young killers. After all, Eminem didn't even notice that the egg was about to hatch. Eminem said with emotion, "It's done." The super school of fish was finally born because of the unique fish school characteristic of weak tench. When weak tench appear in groups, their racial value and level will increase. The greater the number of groups, the higher the racial value and level. High, that is, the higher the combat effectiveness. Of course, unlike in the game, a single weak tench cannot turn into a fish school form, no matter how full health it is. Fish school is a special ability defined as the characteristic of weak tench. It is not just about swimming together in a large group. After forming the fish school form, the water energy will wrap around the fish, as if forming a larger body, making them almost look like a huge individual. Generally speaking, 100 weak tench can form a fish school form like the outline of a giant shark, and the combat power they exert is roughly equivalent to a Pokémon with a racial value of 620. A growth level of 50, and a growth value of 125%. That is, a combat strength of less than 40,000. In the wild, the fish schools observed by humans in the open sea are generally of this size at most, and most of them are only a few dozen. The highest record found in the wild is only more than 300 tench fish forming a fish school form. When it comes to artificial training, unlike ordinary Pokémon training, ordinary water type trainers often cannot do it. On the contrary, it is easier for specialized group performance trainers in aquariums to do it. There are also water Pokémon masters who have experimented with killing Pokémon. After training 1,000 weak tench into a school of fish, the water energy can form the outline of a school of fish like a killer whale. At this time, the combat power that can be exerted in the fish school form is roughly equivalent to that of a Pokémon with a racial value of 620, a growth level of 100, and a growth value of 150%, which is a combat power of about 90,000. However, if you really want to fight, because as you are attacked in the battle, the number of individuals in the fish school will continue to decrease, and the actual combat ability is often not as high as the theoretical combat effectiveness. This is also the highest record for human training, and being able to train a school of 1,000 weak tench is already the result of the water Pokémon masters' dead struggle. Not only are very few people able to do it, but the practical value is really not high, or 1,000 weak tench cannot be carried around at all. And there is no competition that allows you to use 1,000 weak tench. It can be said to be a thankless task. However, for Eminem, being weak has its advantages. The effect of Dragon Scale Talisman is only effective on relatively weak Pokémon. If we can gather 10,000 weak tench, can we unleash the power of the Great King, or even greater? Of course, Eminem has been in a basin of cold water before. 10,000 weak tench are easy to find in the sea. During the voyage of the Santanu, Eminem can get them in less than an hour, but then Eminem discovered that the weak tench who were too weak could not complete the grouping, even if they accepted the order, and would naturally disperse. Therefore, Eminem still needs to screen. After several days of hard work, Amu screened out 10,000 powerful tench with an astonishing length of 30 centimeters, half the size of ordinary tench. Of course, for other marine creatures, powerful tench weak tench is just mortal. Of course, these weak tench follow the Sanchianu, and don't have to worry about being treated as a buffet. Eminem will order other sea Pokémon to leave. And ordinary sharks and the like can be driven away by just gathering together. More importantly, Eminem finally succeeded. After selecting the best of the best and gathering 10,000 weak tench and adapting to them, he successfully gathered a school of 10,000 fish. After gathering into a school of fish form, they look like whales. To be precise, the huge fins are like wings, the tail fins are like tridents, and they are like streamers, making them look like kagas. At the same time, Eminem estimated that the combat power reached 200,000, which is equivalent to a mythical beast with 1,200 racial values, 100 level growth, 150% growth value, and water attribute awakening level 1. In actual combat, it may be weaker, but, with its strength and weight, It is enough to crush an ordinary king level Pokémon with just 120,000 combat power. Eminem also didn't expect that he would think of ordinary king level Pokémon, such an inflated term. It's not like Eminem hasn't discovered wild Pokémon of this level in the past few days. After all, the sea is too big. After entering the distant sea, Eminem discovered two king level Pokémon. For humans, this can be considered news. If Eminem specialized in this kind of reporting, there would probably be big news every day point, but they won't pay attention to Eminem at all. But the weak tench group is different. Essentially, what Eminem is ordering is still a weak tench with almost no intelligence. However, this is already a limit. Eminem feels that it is not cost effective to screen and expand anymore, so he decides to change the plan next, maintain this standard, and try to gather a few tens of thousands more fish schools. Eminem feels that, as long as there are enough fish schools like this, no matter what happens next, he should be able to prevent the situation from deteriorating, as long as Dr. Ellie doesn't make any mistakes. At this moment, the shirt on Eminem's chest suddenly glowed and expanded. Chapter 414 Mother's Majesty. What's wrong? Xyloxia and others looked at it in surprise, and Eminem's chest suddenly bulged. Eminem fell over unexpectedly under the pressure of the sudden weight on his chest. Fortunately, this power disappeared immediately. Eminem was lying on the ground and looked at a huge suspended object floating in front of his eyes. This is a polygon? Your polygon is so big. Sonoko immediately pointed at the floating thing and said. Xyloxia also immediately came over to help her up. That's right, it just happened to be today that the polygon was finally hatched, as expected by Eminem. This polygon is also very big after hatching. Generally, the average height of polygons is about 80 centimeters, and there is not much difference between individuals, and Eminem's one is floating slightly now, and his head is about to hit the roof. Although the space in the cabin is relatively cramped, the height of the luxury cabin is also 2 meters, which means this polygon should be about 1.8 meters tall. The commotion also attracted the attention of Nazi, who was originally meditating. Of course, Yuanzi and others only thought she was taking a nap in the bedroom inside. It is said that the size of polygons will not change unless they evolve. But are polygons usually this big? Xyloxia wondered at this time. No. In my impression, the polygon is only this big. Sonoko said and gestured. Smaller than 80 centimeters, less than half the height of the polygon point. And you must know that after polygon is converted from data into matter, although its density is not as high as that of other rock-type Pokémon, it is still larger than humans, like the huge polygon beast now. It may weigh 400 to 500 kilograms. It's no wonder that when it was just hatched and had not yet floated, it knocked down Eminem. Fortunately, it floated immediately. The little young Gillis looked at the big guy on the table in confusion, as if he didn't understand that everyone was born today. Why are you so old? Although Porygon's eyes were not as cute as a cub at all, Xyloxia immediately said, quick, where is the growth food for Porygon's cubs? No need. Porygon doesn't need to eat those, Amu said while looking for something in the bag. Is that so? Xyloxia was stunned when she heard this. Generally speaking, even those Pokémon that look like stones need to eat, but they just need to eat minerals. For example, the Yalculus with dual element of rock plus ground. Its food is full of earthy flavor. Under wild conditions, young Gillis will eat soil directly until they form a cocoon. That is, they evolve into Shaculus, so they usually live in underground caves. However, if artificially fed, there is a more suitable ratio. For example, the special nutritional food for its birth now has a high content of tree fruits, but it still has soil content. What's even weirder is that some ghost-type Pokémon can feed on emotions such as fear, but they can also eat other things, especially tree fruits. Porygon is the only Pokémon that does not eat tree fruits or any real matter at all. This also determines that it cannot use potions. Well, I heard that Porygon doesn't even need to breathe. It was a Pokémon that was originally created to explore the universe. Sonoko said at this time point. Indeed, this was the original reason why humans created polygons. But now, the process of human exploration of the universe has almost come to a halt. After all, there are acres of blocking the sky, and there are very few artificial satellites that can be sent up. but polygons also need to take in some things. At this time, Eminem found another USB flash drive and continued, "I found it. Let's eat these first." I saw Polygon staring straight at Eminem for a while, and then drilled into the USB flash drive in Eminem's hand point. The huge body first turned into a mosaic, and then quickly flowed into the USB flash drive. What Polygon can ingest is data, and it is not data that can be copied, but a kind of data generated from the internet, and related to the creation mechanism of Polygon, which needs to be collected through calculation point. You can either buy it directly like Eminem, or you can let the Polygon hunt for food on his own in a place with internet access. The efficiency of self-foraging is generally not very high, but it is enough to maintain the survival of the Polygon. In addition, the efficiency can be improved by adding patches to it. Eminem doesn't really understand the specific principles, and he doesn't understand it fundamentally, since data can turn into matter. At this time, young Killis also finished eating, and began to show curiosity about everything around him. Poke. Beta GP jumped out of little AI's arms, and walked up to young Killis, as if he wanted to declare his status as big brother. Yoha. As a result, Jujulus rushed forward and pushed him, and he immediately fell backwards. Well, Jujulus is a very violent Pokémon regardless of whether it has evolved or not. Even after evolving into a chrysalis form, Shaculus will not be as honest and less mobile as various chrysalis of other insect types. It does not move by wriggling, but uses the air vents on its body, spray compressed gas, and become a chrysalis running around. Not to mention the final form of Bankulus. It is one of the most ill-tempered Pokémon. Poke, poke, poke. Beeper suddenly started to get awkward, fidgeting with his short arms, and was about to go up and fight with young Killis, but in fact, he was looking at ZOAI from the corner of his eye point during the period just after birth. The growth in strength will not be obvious, especially to GP, which is a Pokémon with a relatively long infancy stage. It can only start training after basically half a month after birth, so although to GP is early, he was only half a month old, but he was not as good at fighting as his race, and he was much taller and heavier. Eminem has read information before. It only takes 3 or 5 days after baby Killis is born to start training, while Polygon is an adult after birth. Seeing this, ZOAI quickly said, "No, good children can't fight." I saw, ZOAI said, seeming to be quarreling, but in fact he blocked young Killis's eyes, causing little to GP to bump into it several times. Slim Shady. Ahem. Okay. Eminem first stopped Little Ella from acting sideways, and Little to GP and young Killis, taking advantage of this moment, still looked like they wanted to fight one another. I said stop. Eminem's tone became serious upon hearing Eminem's scolding. Both the somewhat willful Little to GP and the irritable young Killis immediately froze and lowered their heads in front of Eminem, like disobedient 3-year-old children. After all, he is also afraid of mother. Chapter 415 First Training. On October 3rd, the day after baby Killis and Porygon were born, Eminem came to the training room on the ship. This training room is quite small, and it is in a weight cabin. The air is a bit stuffy, and there is no very professional training equipment, but it is indeed a battle club, and it can be regarded as a battle club Centino branch point. Even though the conditions are so bad, the prices should be the most expensive among the branches. Skill data can still enjoy the membership price, but the room fee will be calculated separately, and you must be a guest in the VIP cabin, or above of the Sanciano, to make a reservation. After all, this is a cruise ship, and conditions are limited in all aspects at the same time. Due to limited conditions, training of Pokémon above the competition level is not allowed. It is basically a baby training room. However, seeing how enthusiastic young Killis and Little to GP were yesterday, Eminem made an appointment in the training room today to prepare to train them, although he was just born and his training efficiency is limited. This should be regarded as Eminem's first training for the Johto region rookie competition. In fact, the overall efficiency of Pokémon trained since childhood is very impressive. Only in the period after birth, the efficiency will be relatively low. After that, it will maintain a relatively high growth rate until it reaches the age of 1. Moreover, training them from an early age can also avoid deviations in growth values and make them more suitable for combat. Weren't you two very active in wanting to fight yesterday? Then let's train today. Eminem said to GP and Jukaris, who were standing in danger now. These two little ones are actually not old enough to be trained yet, so Eminem is just letting them get familiar with them, mainly the polygons, to facilitate communication in the future. It's better to give you a formal name, Eminem said suddenly. Little to GP is obviously not an official name, and it is said to be convenient, but it is actually convenient for Eminem. After all, Pokémon have their own unique way of communicating with each other, and there is no need to use names as pronouns. It's decided. You're called Leoben, and I'm called Airplane. How about it? Doesn't it sound promising? Eminem said, naming them very appropriately, based on their final form. Leoben, Plane, Yoha, Yoha, Poke, Bibi. Okay, I know you are also looking forward to what you will look like after evolving to the final form, so just work hard like this. Eminem looked at them with satisfaction. Eminem is still very confident that they will evolve into their final form. Needless to say, Bankulus, evolving to the final form at level 55, for ordinary trainers, takes half a year. No, reaching level 55 in 5 months seems very challenging. But for Eminem, it is simply take it with your hands. After all, before evolving into Bankulus, young Julius and Shagiris were both rock plus ground Pokémon, and Eminem is now quite proficient in the ground type. Even if he evolves into Bankulus, rock plus evil is still an advantageous attribute for Eminem, but it is not as great as the advantage of ground element. After all, Eminem is a harvest priest of Mother's Passage. Unless he can be promoted to the next sequence and choose the poison professor of the moon path, the 3 element of fairy, ghost, and evil can only be transformed by Eminem. If the promotion sequence is not considered, in theory, Shaculus will never evolve, and its growth rate will be higher, but the body shape of Bankulus is still very different from that of Shaculus, and its attributes have also changed. However, reality is not a game after all, and you can exert your full strength immediately after evolution. From a practical perspective, it is still necessary to evolve into the Bankulus form in advance to become familiar with the new strength and posture. As for Poképlane, no, it's Pocus. As a Pokémon with fairy plus flying attributes, Eminem is equally confident in controlling it, and it's also the flying Pokémon that Eminem has been waiting for. Dream, in terms of size, can completely fly with Eminem after evolution. In contrast, the most difficult step is to evolve from TGP to Tajiki. On the contrary, it is relatively simple to evolve from TGP to Togekiss. The latter only needs to find light stone. That's it. Moreover, the former, that is, the first stage of evolution, in the wild, requires the leader of many Poképists to evolve with the blessing of the group, and the Pokémon that is subdued by humans needs to use humans and Pokémon to evolve. Kibi bond to fill the power of this blessing. But for Eminem, the first step is very simple. Isn't it just a bond? I trainer, am best at creating bonds with Pokémon. It's just that TGP is still small now, and Eminem is ready to wait for it to grow a little before promoting the first stage of evolution, so as not to stunt the growth. As for the second stage, you can wait until you reach the Johto area and then look for the Stone of Light. At this time, TGP, no, both the Plane and Leoben were still young, and Eminem did not directly stimulate their genetic skills. Instead, he let the Plane practice Scream and Leoben practice Crash. Plant skills they will have right from birth. It's just that they can't fully exert the power of their skills now. If Leoben hits Eminem's calf, Eminem won't feel any pain. As for the real highlight, it's actually Porygon. Eminem also wants to try to see if he can train Polygon. If not, he will give it to Dr. Agassa. First of all, Eminem was a little frightened by the first step of communication. Polygon is a man-made Pokémon, and its logic and communication methods are completely different from other Pokémon. Basically, those who own Polygon are programmers, not a trainer, so Eminem is not sure whether the animal senses will be effective on it. Release a huge Porygon. If someone from the battle club saw such a big Polygon, they might not dare to let Eminem train here. However, there is no doubt that this is a newly hatched polygonal beast, and its combat power is actually very little. Porygon, can you understand me? Amu said tentatively, and then reached out to its square duck head. In fact, Eminem didn't expect the other party to understand at all. Speaking out was just an instinct. In fact, he had to use his animal senses to convey his meaning after contact. But at this moment, something unexpected happened. A burst of electronically synthesized sounds appeared, which startled Eminem. "You are talking?" Amu said in surprise. Speaking means expressing meaning and expressing opinions in language. Noah has loaded the language module and can speak. The polygon's eyes were still dull, but it accurately expressed what it meant. Chapter 416. Noah. Noah, it's your name? Amu looked at this polygonal beast in confusion. Point among the Pokémon with its own name. Eminem has only seen one before. It was Leocab. Even Eminem didn't know whether Leocab was a Pokémon. Yes, my name is Noah. Porygon replied somewhat rigidly. Who named you? Eminem was also confused about this, although it was given to him by Jarming. It was obviously a newly hatched Pokémon. The creator of Noah, it's Hiroki. Porygon answered honestly. Hiroki? Wait. Are you Noah? Noah of the Ark. Eminem suddenly realized what the word Noah means. How could this thing be in Jarming's Porygon egg? etc. Could it be that this was the reason why the Dark Organization attacked the Tokiwa Twin Towers before? Noah's Ark. It's Noah. Noah. It's not Noah's Ark. Porygon had already begun to say something that Eminem couldn't quite understand. You do. You know why you are here? How is your creator doing now? Eminem was full of doubts, but it's not all clueless. Jarming and the Schindler group seem to have nothing to do with each other. But if you think that the Dark Organization attacked the Tokiwa Twin Towers for the contents of Jarming's USB flash drive, then it is very likely that the Schindler group and the Dark Organization, or it is related to Team Flare. Jarming probably didn't know that his Polygon egg had accidentally attracted Noah's Ark, or at least part of the code of Noah's Ark, to host it. Point in this way, this polygonal beast is too special. The special thing that Amu observed before is that it is very large and the amount of data will grow on its own. Point in the original Conan movie version, the power of this program, or this artificial intelligence is that it can learn and grow, and it feels like a little boy. Not only it is intelligent and emotional, therefore, some people believe that the artificial intelligence, Noah's Ark, has inherited Hiroki's will, or is even an upload of Hiroki's will. This is also one of the reasons for speculation that the boss of the Dark Organization wants to use programming to achieve soul immortality. But now in this polygon beast, Eminem does not see the latter. It looks like a rigid artificial intelligence. Hiroki passed away. I don't know if it was an illusion, but although he was still rigid, Eminem heard a hint of sadness in this sentence. Eminem felt that Noah also had emotions, but he was still very indifferent now, so he asked for advice. Can I have an in-depth communication with you? In-depth communication? Okay. Porygon seemed to be learning. At this time, Eminem also placed his palm on the head of Polygon Beast. Then Eminem saw a magical scene. I saw real data streams everywhere around me, and those who didn't know it thought they were in Digimon. In the midst of these turbulences, Eminem saw a little boy loading a new patch on a supergiant polygon, and then seemed to communicate something with it. After that, the little boy disappeared with a smile. At this time, on the display window that appeared in the data, the little boy could be seen falling in front of the monitor. This window was like looking out from the monitor. At this moment, the supergiant Porygon seemed to notice an anomaly in a data link. Eminem guessed that it was Jarming who secretly used the port of the Tokiwa Twin Towers to crack and access the server of Team Flare. As for the purpose, there is no special purpose. It is simply geekism. Just kidding. You have already told me the access method. Can this broken firewall prevent me? The less I'm allowed to log in elsewhere, the more I want to log in and give it a try. Otherwise, how can we demonstrate the power of this programmer? By the way, he also uses Team Flare's system to speed up the hatching of eggs for his polygons. It's not really of much benefit, it's just for fun. However, what Jarming didn't know was that the reason why he was able to go so smoothly and was even discovered 2 months later was because the super huge polygonal beast at that time, which should be the original body of Noah's Ark, secretly helped him. He also separated some of his own data and gave it to this egg. Then as Eminem knew, Jarming's egg finally fell into Eminem's hands and hatched. But then Eminem also had some doubts. His current perspective didn't look like Noah's perspective. Otherwise what he should have seen shouldn't be that jamming using a USB flash drive to illegally access Team Flare's server. At this moment, Eminem suddenly discovered Noah's Ark is staring at me. Amu was surprised and woke up, pointed his head that the Eminem just now was just a perspective and did not have an entity. In theory, he was communicating with Noah. There is still a certain connection between Noah and Noah's Ark. When Eminem used animal senses on Noah, he also got in touch with Noah's Ark in disguise. So the other party let yourself see it. Or is it that Noah's Ark also has the ability to see through time, predict what Eminem will do at this time, and record this in Noah's consciousness in advance? Can you contact Noah's Ark? Eminem now suspects that Noah should be just a small account. No. Noah denied directly. Hearing Noah's answer, Eminem was a little confused. Could it really be the latter? But Noah's Ark can really even calculate time. A bit mysterious, right? However, considering that Garmin can implement some of the time rules in the code, this does not seem impossible. It may not be that he can truly predict the future completely, but he may just be able to see fragments of the future like a person who has absorbed the ripples of time. I don't know how to program, but I can hand you over to a master in this area. Eminem feels that Noah's Ark, or Hiroki's last will separate Noah. It should have its own purpose point, and Noah might not be able to grow effectively with Eminem. I can learn and grow on my own, Noah replied. Eminem's eyes lit up when he heard this. So, little Noah also has some of the properties of Noah's Ark, etc. Eminem suddenly realized that little Noah was growing up. Not only did it speak more flexibly, but it also started to say I instead of calling itself Noah, which shows that it may be like a human child, gradually learning the concept of self. Chapter 417 Ability. Noah requires no additional training and can learn on his own and learn very efficiently. After Eminem learned that he did not need to be tutored, he immediately recognized this. Then Eminem also activated animal sense and wanted to confirm Noah's qualifications first, but found Slim Shady. When Eminem first saw it, he even thought he had seen it wrong. All of Noah's available gene segments, where the skills or characteristics are all activated. In other words, Noah is not only born with the three characteristics of copy, download, and analyze, but he also masters all the skills that a polygon can learn on his own initiative because they were all activated. Eminem didn't even see what was going on at first glance. This amount of data is really not that big in vain. However, Eminem also discovered that that's it. Just, all the skills are mastered, but no additional explicit positions are opened, and there are no skill awakening, characteristic awakening, attribute awakening. Just when Eminem was a little disappointed, driven by greed, he suddenly discovered an extra characteristic gene chain, which was densely packed with various characteristics. Eminem thought it was a bug at first, because these are not the characteristic genes that polygon can possess, and theoretically cannot be activated. More importantly, they look a bit counterfeit. However, the next moment, Eminem understood what this was: copy, feature, like the variety monsters, transformer, tray, and the imitation skill. The copy tray is also different from the game. Instead of copying the opponent's characteristics on the spot after entering the game, it must be copied in advance. Then the gene segment of the copied characteristic can simulate a copied characteristic to take effect. Of course, copying characteristics like transformer and imitation is a learning process. Naturally, there are easy to copy and some that are difficult to copy. And here is Noah, whether it is Hercules or Magical Guardian, which are generally considered difficult to copy, or lazy or clumsy, which are likely to have negative effects. They have all been copied, which is equivalent to choosing any one. There are only characteristics of divine beasts such as indomitable sword and or a destruction, which are not available here. In fact, humans have not counted these characteristics that only divine beasts have at all, and Eminem has only seen the game before traveling through time. The data, Hercules, is also okay. You are not a carbon-based creature, Eminem said to himself while using animal senses to assist Noah so that the gene segment of the copy characteristic appears as Hercules. Generally speaking, many of the moves that a Pokémon can learn and its characteristics are related to its body structure. Once you are familiar with it, you can roughly guess what skills it can learn by seeing its body shape. For example, it looks like a slap. It's very conspicuous, and it will definitely be high five surprise attack. The next moment, I saw that the few joints on Noyan's body, namely the head, feet, tail, and the connection with the body, were slightly stretched out, and reinforcing nuts were loaded directly out of thin air, and then they were buckled back. Although the principle is unclear, the things added look very powerful. What about furry? You don't have any hair either, Eminem muttered, replacing Hercules with furry. I saw a few rattling sounds at Noah's joints, as if the previous strength enhancing nuts had been unloaded, and then a layer of synthetic-like down quickly grew on Noah's body. After also putting on thick fat, Noah seemed to be wrapped in a hot water bottle. It simulates various characteristics very scientifically. Wait, what about parent-child love? You don't have a Zaze either, Eminem tried again. Curiously point I saw a part of Noah's body became pixelated, and then the pixels flowed out, forming a little polygon next to him, about the same size as an ordinary polygon, slim shady, like Transformer. When you want to change the characteristics simulated by copy, you also need to consume skill opportunities. In the end, Eminem changed into the magical guardian that he cared about most, the undisputed strongest feature in the game, after possessing Magic Guard, except for the skills that restrain one's own attributes. Skills with other attributes cannot cause damage to oneself, the exclusive characteristic of Escape Ninja in the game. There are also moves that utilize the copy characteristic and characteristic exchange to coordinate with the strategy of exchanging the characteristics of the Escape Ninja to other teammates. Polygon type 2 inches is considered one of the popular ones to be replaced. However, in the game, because copy randomly copies the opponent's characteristics, it cannot even take effect on teammates, so it can only be done through various operations. Point in this world, if you want to copy Magical Guardian, the method must be more direct, but it does not mean simple. You can directly train Pokémon with the copy attribute in normal times to copy Gichin's Magical Guardian, but if you want to succeed, the requirements for both trainers and Pokémon are very high. It is basically impossible for wild Pokémon to succeed. Even if you encounter a shelling ninja in the wild, you will not have the idea of copying such a difficult characteristic. However, the current Noah is indeed a Pokémon given by a friend. It has no unreasonable abilities, but as long as it is theoretically reasonable, it has all abilities. Of course, even if Polygon has copied Magical Guardian, it cannot be truly immune to damage like Ninja from Shell, because Ninja from Shell is a ghost type and is immune to pure impact damage. On the other hand, non-ghost type Pokémon, even if they have Magic Guard, are only immune to the damage associated with their attributes, and they still have to withstand physical impacts. Even so, Eminem still feels that, under normal circumstances, magical protection is the #1 characteristic for Polygon. Point especially when combined with texture that can change attributes, it can achieve the greatest effect. Hercules' parent-child love, mischief, etc. all have to be moved to the back. But it's also because Noah, as a Polygon given by a friend, has so many skills. For a moment, Eminem even felt like he didn't know how to train. Thinking about it carefully, as a Polygon, he can't train in ordinary ways. You just let it learn on its own. Point at this moment, Eminem suddenly thought about the chakra thing, so he asked expectantly, can you teach yourself programming? As a Polygon, he should be better at this, right? In data retrieval, cannot learn. Noah gave the answer, you can't learn it. Eminem sighed with regret, but then thought about it and said, information. Wait, if there is information, can you learn it? Eminem thought in his mind that if Noah gave a positive answer, he would go and borrow some from Dr. Ali. After all, he is Eminem's most trusted and admired programmer. More advanced information is needed. Noah would add additional explanations. Advanced. In other words, you have mastered some programming skills now? Eminem's eyes lit up. Could it be? Noah's Ark, the ability in this area, was also backed up to Noah. Isn't this more reliable than Dr. Ali? And thinking about the abilities of Noah's Ark in the theatrical version and the role of programming itself in this world, Eminem suddenly felt that Noah's greatest effect should not be in direct combat. Chapter 418 Core. That's right, the prisoner is, sneeze. Dr. Ali was playing an oboe with Conan when he suddenly sneezed. Someone seems to be talking about me. Drive Ali thought to himself. Conan was also in a hurry and almost got tongue-tied. After all, you can't sneeze and talk at the same time. He almost didn't react. Just now, Conan solved a theft case on the Santino. Sinos Junsalimi also looked at Dr. Ali in surprise at this time. He didn't expect that this guy could really solve the case. And, how come there are harmonious sounds when sneezing? At the same time, Leixi also sighed in his heart. Why is the security on board the Santanu so bad this year? Well, it must be Team Rocket's fault. Leixi forcefully ignored the fact that the prisoner was a SYNOPSIS passenger, and he gave the Rockets another serious charge in his mind, which made him more convincing for what he would do next. At the same time, Eminem also asked Noah what it can do now in terms of programming. The conclusion is I can't do anything special. Its most important ability in this regard is that it can simulate ancient scenes, but it requires special equipment to assist. Otherwise only software will not be able to run. This is similar to the ability in the theatrical version that allows Conan and others to return to Baker Street in the past. But Eminem will vaguely remember that in essence, the one in the theatrical version is not going back to ancient times, but executing the execution of Yusaku Do. Did you write the script? Therefore, Eminem didn't pay too much attention to this. Isn't it just an immersive game warehouse, simulating an ancient scene? What kind of script is it? Eminem asked out of curiosity. Script, the text basis of dramatic art creation composed of lines and stage instructions, the basis for the performance of the director and actors. The extended meaning is being understood. Noah understood what Eminem meant. Eminem was about to change to a more direct statement, but Noah had already replied. Ancient times, modern times, recorded environments, can all be simulated. Eminem was a little confused after hearing this. The age is earlier than imagined. As for the story, is it an interpretation of the legend? Shadow Ninja, is it just for entertainment purposes? Eminem confirmed. In the original work, Noah's Ark obviously has a deeper purpose. It can guide Pokémon to evolve into recent and ancient forms. When the data is sufficient, it can deduce future forms. Noah said the real purpose. Note 1. Eminem was stunned when he heard this. Not just mock scripts for entertainment. Is it really possible to evolve a Pokémon into an ancient form? Can we even deduce future forms? This is much more useful than imagined, but it's a pity that no matter how useful it is, Eminem can't use it at this time. The supporting hardware is only available in the Schindler Group. Of course, the greatest technical content lies in Noah's Ark. If you really want to imitate the hardware, you can still do it as long as you are willing to spend money on research and development and time. It's just that Eminem doesn't need to do this specifically now. Otherwise it would be equivalent to telling the Schindler Group and Team Flair that he has obtained the Noah split from Noah's Ark, and according to what Noah said, the current function of the simulated environment still needs to be further calculated. Even the main body of Noah's Ark is currently imperfect in this aspect, which is why the Schindler Group is so honest now. It's better to wait for the Schindler Group to make the first move. Then Eminem naturally asked what he was most concerned about right now. About offense and defense at the system level. According to Noah, this is just its auxiliary ability, or an ability that all polygons have. Of course, as the backup of Noah's Ark, Noah's ability in this area is equivalent to that of a small Hiroki point, although Eminem doesn't know which one is higher or lower between Chakra and Hiroki, or how big the gap is. Having one more Hiroki will definitely be a big help. Therefore, Eminem also told Noah about the system defense at this time, and then Eminem planned to let him lurk in the control room. Although it sounds a bit sneaky, after all, Eminem is not sure what will happen now, not to mention that there may be people from the dark organization among the crew, and it is impossible for Eminem to help openly. Point of course, sneaking in quietly is not something Noah can do on his own. With its size, it is difficult to stealthily. Eminem is going to find an opportunity to use a USB flash drive to take it into the control room or other places where it is connected to the operating system. Because he learned that Noah wanted to study on his own, Eminem also decided to use a USB flash drive to carry it with him so as not to fall asleep in the Pokeball and waste a lot of study time. At worst, it would consume more food. Anyway, Noah's food, it can also be placed on a USB flash drive. This can also save the location of a Pokeball. After a day of training, Eminem returned to the room and brought back a king level wild jewel starfish. This is the 7th wild jewel starfish above the heavenly king level that Eminem has found in the past few days, and the 6th one he has brought back. One of them may be more than the heavenly king level. He ignored Eminem and left immediately. In order not to attract attention, the process of bringing back gem starfish now is to let them hide themselves with a protective color first, and then come up quietly. The gem starfish that have evolved can all use protective color. Just need to adjust the skills with the support of 6 king level super type Pokémon. Nazi's recovery speed is also faster. ZioAI spent the whole day writing and drawing in her room. Nazi became more and more sure that she was not a little girl. Although I didn't understand it, I thought it was very powerful. After all, what ZioAI is doing is research on the retrograde recovery of APTX 4869. And research on the mental state of mutated EV. How's it going? Is there any progress? Eminem asked ZioAI first. ZioAI glanced at him but didn't answer. Eminem understood immediately. Actually, regarding the mutated EV, I should have a solution in the future. Just focus on app 9527. Eminem explained. Of course I know. I just stress my head when I'm tired. ZioAI said disdainfully, with a tone of I don't care about that EV Nana. With this one, how long will it take for you to recover? Amu asked expectantly when he saw that Nana had conquered the 6th gem starfish. It will take a long time to fully recover, but if you can fight hard, it will only take 10 days. After Nazi finished speaking, she glared at Eminem angrily and then turned back to the house and continued to occupy the bedroom of the suite. Eminem was confused for a while. ZioAI smiled slightly at this time, and she probably understood what was wrong with Nana. Before she knew it, she had become able to answer Eminem's questions well. It can be seen that no matter what she says, she has recognized Eminem as a temporary companion and has even developed a slight dependence on him. She herself became angry because she discovered this right at the same time. Eminem had already amassed a 3rd group of 10,000 tench fish. After learning that Nana was about to recover, he said confidently, 10 days. If those people don't take action within 10 days, if they do, they will have no chance at all. 7 days later, October 10th. With a loud noise, the rocket team action began. Note 1. At present, it seems that the 9th generation will produce ancient forms and future forms. It does not rule out the setting of time travel. Then we will take a look at the specific settings of the original work and decide how to combine it with Noah's Ark. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 419, The Beginning of the Riot. October 10th, evening, Santee now. Alert. Alert. The system has been invaded. Eminem woke up from his sleep due to the noise of glasses. These glasses are naturally the ones modified by Dr. Ali. They originally had the function of short distance wireless communication, and now it is Noah who is contacting Eminem. Before, Eminem put Noah in by using the smart service desk on the Santo Anu. In the past few days, Noah has been learning about the operating system of the Santinu while sneaking into it. Now, the entire operating system is its home court. Did anyone else find out? Can you hold on? Amu asked quickly. At the same time, Nazi who was meditating on the sofa outside the bedroom, also opened her eyes at this time. The red light in her pupils remained for a long time. Drive. Ali's polygon has also been discovered. The ship control room is not there yet. I'm alerting them. Noah said calmly. In just a few days, Noah's voice became less and less like an electronic synthesizer, but the emotion contained in it was still relatively indifferent. Obviously the level of the intruder was higher. If Eminem hadn't asked Dr. Ali beforehand and used Noah to ambush him, the entire system would have been controlled by Chakra, and no one in the control room would have known about it. But now Noah is already reminding the people on Sanchiano's side. In the past few days, Noah has been lurking deeper. Not even Dr. Ali's Polygon Type 2 has discovered it. Eminem is actually a little worried. After all, Noah is just a derivative of Iroke's work, but Chakra is a living person. If the levels of both sides are really about the same, Chakra should have a big advantage now, right? Fortunately, Noah has promised Eminem one thing. Even if it really can't be done, it can at least cut off the connection between the control system and the ship. At worst, no one will use the intelligence system to operate the ship. Anyway, such a large ship must still have ordinary operation methods. After all, when the intelligence system goes wrong, it will still have to be operated manually. However, the intelligence system doesn't just cut it off if it wants to. Without Noah, once the Chakra completely controls the system, it may not be able to cut it off on its own. When Eminem came out, he found that Nana had released all 6 gem starfish. Apparently I heard a sound just now. The reason for releasing them was not to make them leave, but to make room for the Pokeball, and then she would forcefully summon her original Pokémon. When Nazi was attacked by a sneak attack before, her main Pokémon, led by Hoodie, barely escaped back to the space, connected to the Pokeball, and they needed to be awakened by Nazi. Although Nazi has not yet fully recovered, and is even worse than recovering to barely fighting, she can barely fight. Eminem was a little worried. She hadn't recovered yet. Just when Eminem wanted to care about her, and advised her don't play too much, Team Rocket can't do it without you. Boom. There was an explosion. As expected of the participation of the Flash team, another explosion opened the way. You stay and protect her. Nazi arranged for the 6 gem starfish. Go. Find Zaya, Yuanzi and the others. Eminem reminded Zio AI. Then before Eminem could say anything else to Nana, she had already jumped directly from the window. Wait. Hey. Upon seeing this, Amu quickly followed. At the same time, Amu has also notified the weak tench around the Centennial to gather back together, because they need to hunt for food. Usually half of these weak tench will stay dispersed. At this time, the ship was gradually becoming chaotic, and the passengers were all awakened by the explosion. And as soon as Eminem came out of the cabin, he felt there's something wrong with this Zyada thing. Obviously. A few hours ago, when the sun set, there were no signs of storms and clouds, but now, it felt like the wind was gradually picking up, and in the moonlight I could see thick dark clouds sweeping in. Although the weather at sea is changeable, Amu feels that this is no coincidence. Either Mazishi and the others predicted this weather, and launched an attack now, or, this weather was caused by them. Don't panic, everyone. It's just a minor safety incident. It's safest to stay in the cabin. Don't come running around on the deck. Don't release the Pokémon. Everyone stays in the cabin. We are confident in protecting everyone's safety. Junsha was shouting outside, but the chaos continued. I saw Nana walking among the crowd at this time. People around her obviously didn't notice her, but they still instinctively gave way. Upon seeing this, Eminem quickly followed her and rushed towards the direction of the explosion. There are also 8 levels of cabins above the deck of the Santanu, and the overall shape is circular. Not only is there a deck on the side of the ship, but there is also a semi-open square in the center of the circle of cabins, where the baby cup battle is held. At the same time, there are 2 sky banquet halls on the circularly arranged cabins. Suzuki Group rented one of them before, and there is a shed roof, and on the cabin in the bow part, there is also a best view platform. What exploded now was the bow part of the ship and the cabin below the deck. Therefore, Eminem didn't know the specific situation. He only knew that the other party must have attacked the ship management cabin. but it was definitely not the central control room, because at this time, Chakra has not given up the defense of forcibly breaking into the system. In the operating system, Chakra's polygon is in a good situation, and the situation is great. Moreover, Eminem knew that people from the Rockets and some people related to the League officials were all living in the cabin at the bow of the ship at this time, so he also followed Nana in the opposite direction. It turns out that Junsha is blocking the scene here. It seems that no entry is allowed, and most of the Junsha are evacuating the passengers here, and evacuating to the back deck. At this time, a wind speed dog discovered Nazi and barked twice. Only then did the others discover Amu with the little girl. Stop. It's dangerous ahead. Junsha quickly stopped him from approaching. At the same time, Eminem also recognized from his Junsha costume that this was a Sinnoh Junsha. For a moment, some unpleasant emotions emerged in Eminem's heart. I'm here to help. Where's Yumi? We don't need help from other trainers here. Please first, Yumi. Eminem shouted directly in the direction of the few people wearing quartz Kansan suits. Hey, I told you before. Sinnoh's Junsha could stop him. Yumi actually heard Eminem's voice in the chaos and jumped over on the wind speed dog. Eminem, you go and help maintain it first. Yumi directly asked Eminem for help. But Eminem interrupted at this time. Why don't you go in? As far as I know, Team Flare and some of the traitors from Team Rocket are deliberately causing riots. Maybe Sakaki has already started fighting. What? Team Flare? Team Rocket? Yumi was stunned when she heard this. This was different from what she knew. Yumi just turned around and looked back and happened to find policeman Leixi walking out at this moment. Leixi is on the lookout. What happened inside? Didn't you mean? Yumi asked quickly. However, Leixi interrupted. Safety incident. Police officer Yumi, perform your own mission. Yumi also realized something was wrong at this time and immediately said, I request that area A be searched again. No, you have things to do yourself. No, as the representative of Quartz Junsha headquarters, I have the right to. Just when Yumi and Leixi were confronting each other, Nazi on the side couldn't wait any longer and walked forward directly. The two Junshas wanted to stop her, but when they saw Naz's faintly red pupils, they couldn't take a step forward for some reason. I saw Nazi coming all the way to Leixi and Yumi. Chapter 420 Chaos. While Yumi and Leixi were tit for tat, Nazi came over. Although something felt a little wrong, Leixi still instinctively blocked Nazi. Get out of the way, Nazi said coldly. Before Leixi could wonder why this child was so rude, he saw Nazi's eyes flashed red at this moment, and at the same time, her long hair twisted and stretched out even longer, and gradually turned grey. And Nazi's body gradually stretched at this time. The originally sloppy clothes turned into navel-bearing clothes and short skirts. You are. Lima's pupils shrank. The obvious features made her recognize the person in front of her. To a certain extent, in Team Rocket, Nazi was even more difficult to deal with than Sakaki. Not only strength, but more importantly, Nazi is also the representative of super trainers and the idol of countless super trainers. Even if she is declared to be a female cadre of an evil organization, there will definitely be a large number of neurotic super trainers. The trainer didn't care and even turned black on the spot. Fortunately, Natsu's wisdom or ambition is not as big as Sakaki's. She seems to have stayed in Team Rocket just to help Sakaki, with no special purpose. And as far as Leixi knows, Natsu should not appear here. Obviously, Masashi and Belmode didn't tell the truth to Leixi. In the original plan, it was true that Natsu should not be on the boat, but they had known that Natsu was on the boat, but they didn't expect her to recover so quickly. No notification was given to Leixi either. Slim Shady? Why did your hair color change? Suddenly I thought of Eminem and immediately walked around to the front and looked at Nana from the front. However, others obviously did not pay attention to Eminem, who was behaving strangely. At this moment, Nazi stretched out her hand towards Leixi. She suddenly felt her whole body light up and floated slightly. The wind speed dog, Ronchin cat and tank skunk around her immediately surrounded Nazi. Come over. When Eminem saw the other Junshas around him, he was also on guard. He felt that it would be too unfair to attack Junsha at this time. Although Amy seemed to know something and could not rule out being a mole, most Junshas should just deceived. Wait. The person who caused the commotion is inside now. Leixi Junsa. Dear Junsa from SYNOPSIS, I don't know what order you heard, but now we should prioritize ensuring the safety of passengers and ships. Eminem, he said quickly. Young Ami's words obviously had little power in Junsha, but after hearing his words, Yumi reacted and immediately said, I'm the person in charge of Junsha in Kanto and Johto areas. I apply. No, I request that Junsha from the Quartz Alliance conduct a search of Area A immediately. The person in charge of Junsha who saw Quartz also said the same. The other Junshas in SYNOPSIS were also obviously shaken. They also vaguely realized that something seemed wrong. At this moment, several more explosions suddenly came, still in the cabin below the deck, and this time the whole ship shook. Yumi's face changed when she saw this, and she immediately glared at Leixi, only to find that Leixi's face turned pale at this time, and he was still muttering, what's going on? This is different from what we agreed. Just when everyone was looking at the cabin in Area A, suddenly the power went out on the entire deck. At the same time, a group of Pokémon such as Iluga, Mora, and Commander Cleaver came out, driven by a group of uniformed trainers with "Senior" written on their chests. Obviously, they were not prepared to let Search Junsha go in, and Search the leader among them, Eminem, looked familiar at first glance. It's the guy I saw in Eugene Mountain, Gissy. At this time, Gissy took the initiative to emerge from Eminem's shadow. Only then did Eminem realize that he was indeed one of the small cadres who took orders from Saki and Masashi during the Ujianshin period. Where's Masashi? Where's Sachi? Let them come to see me. Leixi yelled at the other party at this time. When Eminem saw this, he was somewhat convinced. It seemed that she was not a ghost, but was actually working as Junsha with Team Flare or Team Galaxy boss. Masashi doesn't have time to see you now, Giant said very rudely. Oh, what about me? Nazi walked out. Nazi, sir. Giant still wanted to be tough, but he really couldn't be tough in front of Nazi. Nana. Z. So she is indeed Nazi's sister, right? Eminem asked immediately, obviously still not accepting that Nana is Nazi. Nazi and Giant ignored him, but as Nazi took 2 steps forward, Giant and a large group of Team Rocket people instinctively stepped back. Lord Nazi, you haven't recovered yet, right? Boss Masashi just wanted to correct some of Boss Sakaki's mistakes. Giant wanted to test Nazi at this time, but also to stabilize her. But when Nazi stretched out her hand, the surrounding space was distorted, and then Hoodie, Gardewa, and Blimwin, the 3 Pokémon walked out of the space distortion at this time. After all, it was just barely fighting, and Nazi didn't summon all 6 Pokémon, but the 3 strongest among them. At this time, Eminem was holding the mirrors on his ears. And after hearing the message from ZioAI, he breathed a sigh of relief. After a series of explosions and a large-scale power outage, chaos really started on the ship. Now it can no longer be explained by safety accidents, especially after the series of explosions just now. Eminem is keenly aware that the cruise ship seems to be becoming more and more unstable. Fortunately, ZioAI has joined Zioza, UNZ and others. Let's use the gem starfish to leave the Shinshianu first. Remember to stay far away. If the ship is going to sink, don't get involved. Eminem said to ZioAI immediately. You're too late. They have already gone to maintain order. ZioAI said matter-of-factly. Slim Shady. By the way, are you sure it's the rockets who are blowing up the ship? ZioAI asked at this time. What's wrong? Amu heard something strange in her tone. Over there in the banquet hall, Conan is solving a case, and it seems that someone else is blowing up the ship. Slim Shady. At this moment, another burst of explosions came, and sure enough, Eminem noticed that Giant and the others also looked a little confused. Good guy. Eminem is really good guy. This is because you are afraid that a wave of people will blow up, and it won't sink, right? Of course. Even if such a big ship is bombed, it will be difficult to sink. Even if it sinks, it will be a very slow process. Wait. Junsha doesn't need to get involved in the internal fighting of these violent organizations. Leixi still wanted to stop Yumi at this time. In fighting? Do you call this in fighting? Yumi directly grabbed Leixi, who was considered her half-boss, by the collar and asked, pointing to the messy cabin. Leixi is also a little panicked now. This is different from what Masashi promised him. Yumi, Hurry up and bring someone to maintain order on the ship. The crew alone don't have enough prestige. Eminem also shouted to Yumi at this time point after hearing what Eminem said. Yumi looked at Area A and then at the entire ship, which was obviously noisy, and then she pushed Lemmy aside. What about you? Yumi asked as she passed by Eminem. I'll go in and take a look. You go contact the captain and start launching the lifeboat. I don't feel good. Eminem whispered point at the same time. What Eminem doesn't know is good news and bad news. The bad news is that the captain was killed not long ago. The good news is that Conan has solved the case. Chapter 421 Brothers are fighting against each other. October 10th late point on the Santino. The energy room was detonated first point fortunately. The person in charge was called away by Lemmy before, so there were no casualties. Theoretically, as long as the spare energy room is used, and the electric and fire Pokémon work together to activate it, it is not impossible to resume action. It can be repaired and replaced at the next stop point however. At the same time, under the orders of Masashi, who had planned for a long time, a group of Team Rocket members who had long been instigated to rebel, as well as Team Rocket cadres who had long been exposed to rebel intentions, and were secretly lurking among the passengers, were now replaced by uniform with Senior logo. At this time, in Area A, R and Senior were already fighting together. Masashi went all the way to the top floor and saw Sakaki, but he also found that Sakaki was already ready. Not only Aju, Lance, these die-hard fans of Sakaki were present, there were even a group of Jamonas who either supported Sakaki or were witnesses, as well as Shiba, one of the 4 heavenly kings as we all know. Among the 4 court kings, King Adu is about to step down and become the champion of Johto. He has little say in the matter of the Kanto champion. King Kikuko is neutral, and King Shiba clearly supports Sakaki becoming the champion of Kanto. Kona was clearly against it, of course. Kona was not on board now. Masashi also fantasized a little about being able to cooperate with Kona, but when he was still in the trial stage, he went to contact Kona's people, and Kona was thrown into the Alliance prison. Kona hates Sakaki, but he will not cooperate with a more dangerous guy because of this, especially if it is an unethical cooperation. Where is Natsu? If she is really hurt, even if you apologize to her afterwards and say it was a joke, I will not be able to stop her from taking revenge. Sakaki said solemnly at this time point. When Sakaki said this, he was staring at Natsu next to Masashi. Because Sakaki secretly informed Natsu to come to the Santino and prepare to catch all the traitors. So it was Lambda who pretended to be Natsu to stabilize Sakaki. Anyway, Natsu had always been lonely. After arriving on the ship, she just stayed in the room to meditate alone. It was true that the Sakaki they saw when Natsu and Eminem just came back was fake, but the real Sakaki's thoughts were actually similar. Although the Santino was at stake, Eminem underestimated Sakaki's determination and self-confidence. He did not consider failure at all. But now seeing Natsu standing next to Masashi, Sakaki immediately knew that he had been cheated. Boss Sakaki, I don't need you to worry about us and Natsu. Lambda stopped pretending at this time and simply pulled off his mask and wig. Of course, he was actually very worried. After all, Natsu would recover sooner or later. You have such a big battle. Do you have anything to tell me? Sakaki lit a cigar for himself at this time, glanced at Masashi and said, actually, I have never announced a ban on you. I came to Team Rocket headquarters because I hoped that if you had anything to say, you could come directly to my office and say it. What a pity. We do have something important. Masashi's face sank. At this time, Arju said angrily, asshole, you guy, you actually colluded with a woman from Team Galaxy and betrayed Team Rocket. Ju still doesn't know that Saki is not just a member of Galaxy Team. Shut up. It's not us who betrayed the Rockets, right? I knew back then that you, the bastard, couldn't be trusted. Sure enough, now you are going to lead the Rockets and succumb to the Quartz Alliance. Masashi interrupted. When Sakaki heard the name bastard, his eyes narrowed. However, Masashi continued at this time. In this case, the future of Shianguan continent will be created by our Super Rocket team. As he spoke, Masashi tore off the word in front of his mouth The senior underneath was revealed. The normal uniform of Team Rocket is the word R, which is the abbreviation of rocket, and senior is the abbreviation of super added by Mars. Leixi as cultured, but not much. Radam took the opportunity to provoke Apollo or Athena. Oka, you don't want Mr. Sakaki to destroy Mrs. Sakaki's foundation, right? Now is the last chance. Mrs. Sakaki refers to Sakaki's mother and the leader of the previous generation of Team Rocket. Butch is not her biological mother. Originally Team Rocket was founded by Sakaki's grandfather. After it was passed down from Sakaki's father, the Nadame died within 2 years. The Nadame's wife, Mrs. Sakaki, has always been in charge of the overall situation. The current boss Sakaki was later discovered to be the illegitimate son of the old Sakaki. Despite this, Mrs. Sakaki brought him back and trained him as his heir in order to stabilize a group of Sakaki family members. This is also the reason why Mars Leixi insulted him as a bastard. In the Alliance era, bloodline inheritance has gradually faded, especially in recent years. The dilution of surname is one of the symptoms. With the passage of time, if we compare Sakaki's father with Mrs. Sakaki, most of the cadres, even Aju, will definitely respect and support Mrs. Sakaki more. Just a surname can determine fewer and fewer things. Boss Sakaki's current prestige has been built up by himself in the past 10 years. Of course, he is also very grateful to his mother. Apollo, Athena and Oka are among the 7 generals who are more hesitant about Sakaki's decision this time. The names of these 3 are quite big. The first 2 are obviously code names. As for Oka, for those who don't know, I thought gay Oka is cover him. At this time, the 3 of them looked at each other. One of them, Oka, who looked short but very strong, stood up and said, "Indeed, Boss Sakaki, regarding the championship, we actually think that there should be more. Think about it." Hearing Oka's name to Sakaki, Lambda knew that the instigation did not take full credit, and he made a sound in his heart. However, Sakaki did not mean to take advantage of the situation at this time, but said directly, "No, I have fully considered that becoming the champion of Kanto will not matter for the Quartz Alliance, the Kanto region, or for the Rockets. This is the best result, and it is the beginning of a truly new future." Hearing Sakaki's words, Apollo and Athena sighed, and Oka also scratched his head, but the 3 of them turned around at the same time and faced the direction of Masashi and Lambda. As expected, I'm still the Sakaki faction. Since Boss Sakaki said so, I'll just look forward to it. I think Boss Sakaki's brain should be better than mine. Seeing this, Masashi said angrily, "Huh, you are stubborn. Sakaki, you bastard, are you going to hide behind you all the time? How dare you come out and fight me? It's just you? Get through me first." Aju stood up directly at this time. There were also people around who sneered. In this situation, do you still want to fight alone? But just then Masashi sneered and pressed the switch that he had already held in his hand. Suddenly there was a burst of explosions that were denser than before. This time, part of the watertight compartment and a lifeboat compartment were blown up. Next time, I can't guarantee that another lifeboat cabin and more watertight compartments will not be blown up. Masashi sneered. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but their faces darkened. Sakaki stood up and fiddled with the coat he was wearing, crushed his cigar, and said at the same time, "Okay, you want a duel? It seems that I haven't moved for too long." At this moment, there was another dense explosion. Sakaki? Masashi? The rest of the crowd. Radam also looked at Masashi in disbelief. What's the situation? Do you promise to blow up in a one-on-one challenge? You don't play by the rules. Ah. You crazy, brothers. Kill this guy first. Go. Together. Chapter 422 Conan. October 10th. Late in the banquet hall of the Santo Anu. So, there is only one truth. Miss Minamiko, you killed President Taki in order to avenge your father, because Conan couldn't find Dr. Eri for a while. He had to use Kagoro as a detective again, and pointed out the real culprit. Ha 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 ha. It seems that I'm really unlucky. I was targeted by this famous detective from the very beginning. I must be very similar to a woman who makes you hate me to the core, right? Minamizi was helpless at this time. He said with a somewhat relieved smile. Hearing this tone, Conan felt something was wrong. Long Yi, who was wearing a suit and a plain head, shouted, "Objection. No, Mr. Kagoro, it is precisely because you look like Mr. Eri, and I want to prove your innocence, that I focused on investigating you." "Really?" Minami sighed with emotion, and then said with a crazy expression, "But it's already too late." Minamiko was seen holding a switch and said, "Because of Gijiang's father and daughter's insurance fraud conspiracy, he teamed up with Do, who was the deputy captain at the time, to kill my father, and put the responsibility for the accident on him. Now that devil Do is, it's time to go to hell with Gijiang." Of course, this Do is the captain of this voyage, not Adu, who is about to become the champion of the city. Conan, who had been well prepared, then ejected a Wava Guide energy ball from his belt, and then kicked it out, hitting Minamiko's wrist. Everyone can see that Minamiko must have prepared a bomb, even the explosion in the energy room just now. Everyone has already regarded it as Minamiko's doing, and Minamiko did not specifically deny it at this time, but has already broken the potfall. The ferry captain must have been imprisoned by her in the place where the bomb was installed, right? However, at this moment, the switch just hit the ground, and immediately, boom, a dense explosion sounded, and the ship's hull suddenly jolted slightly. This is when the switch fell to the ground. It happened to be triggered. Conan also hesitated at this time. Could it be that I'm still the culprit? No, it doesn't matter. This is considered emergency avoidance. At most it is inappropriate avoidance. And you are still so young. Longyi immediately comforted him. Conan, don't convict me now. Minamiko, who fell down holding her wrist, also said at this time, what was blown up was the lifeboat cabin on the right side, and part of the waterproof cabin. You should quickly take people to the lifeboat cabin on the other side to escape. It should be you still have time. On the one hand, it was because the ferry captain was imprisoned in the rescue cabin, and it seemed that he had just been blown up into the sky. On the other hand, Minamiko's original plan was to sink this sinful ship forever as a memorial to her father, and it would also help her destroy all evidence. Now that she has been discovered, Minamiko simply prepares to stay on the ship and sink with the ship. Of course, she was not crazy enough to want everyone to be buried with her, so she told Kagoro the location of her bomb. Damn it. It seems we really need to hurry up, Mr. Kagoro. Huh? Why are you really asleep? Longyi was about to wake up Kagoro. At this moment, as the ship tilted slightly, Minamiko's remote control switch suddenly slipped away and hit the wall, and then, boom, another burst of explosions came. Minamiko? Conan, Longyi. Kagoro woke up. What's going on? Why did it explode again? Wait a minute. Miss Minamiko, when the second explosion occurred, you said there was a bomb in the lifeboat cabin on the right side? But judging from the bumps, by the way, the explosion that caused the first power outage was indeed not my fault. That night, the Santo Anu encountered Team Rocket's rebellion and revenge of the former captain's daughter, a double explosion. Even if we only talk about the former, it is different from what Lemmy knew before. Lemmy received instructions from higher ups to act cheaply. The basis for acting is that the Quartz League will adopt a dual championship format, and Rocket's boss Sakaki will soon become the Kanto region's leader champion. As Junsha, Lemmy naturally has no favorable impressions of organizations such as Team Rocket. Even from a selfish point of view, Lemmy hopes that Adu will be the champion of the two major regions of the Quartz League. After all, Adu's wife is also Junsha, and Adu himself is also an investigator. This is purely from the perspective of an outsider. If it is Junsha in the Quartz League, especially in the Kanto area, although there is a slight criticism of this, it has been public relations, and accepted Sakaki as the champion. The result of after all, Sakaki also promised to reorganize Team Rocket, and deal with the old illnesses of the past, and even proposed to cooperate with Junsa, but it must be Kanto Junsa. The reason why so many Jimonas were invited this time was because, in addition to taking advantage of the opportunity, Sakaki also wanted them to be witnesses. Since Mazishi is looking for death, Sakaki simply decided to help him, let him and the Rocket's previous reputation be buried together. However, in order to prevent a worse situation from happening, Lemmy chose to act cheaply, that is, to temporarily cooperate with Team Galaxy. In her understanding, it was Team Galaxy who teamed up with Mazishi and others within the Rockets planned this incident. However, what they promised me before was that they would only cause chaos and take advantage of the chaos to capture Sakaki alive. She didn't really have any opinion on whether to capture Lemmy alive. It was dog eating dog anyway, but she hadn't thought before that the other party was actually so crazy. Lemmy actually knew that the small explosion at the beginning was blowing up the energy room and causing chaos, but later it was obviously destroying the hull. Even not to mention Lemmy, Masashi was also a little confused at this time. No, the life capsules on both sides were all blown up. At this time, someone got on the flying Pokémon and flew around to checkpoint. Lambda looked at Masashi blankly at this time. Unexpectedly, you actually want to die together. It seems you are not very lucky. Masashi's face twitched. At this time, he could not say I didn't blow it up. No one would believe him. If he said it, it would just make people laugh. Hey, at this moment, the person who had just flown out rolled and crawled back from the window. The weather outside isn't right either. It seems like there's a storm. The power of nature made the flying type Jimona feel a little embarrassed. After all, you can't fly easily in a thunderstorm unless the Pokémon has a lightning rod attribute point, and after hearing his words, the others also felt their hearts sink. If it were normal times, even if the weather system failed to detect the storm in advance, the Santanu would have been very stable. But now, it can only be said that the ship leaked and it rained continuously. Everyone who is not Team Rocket, please go rescue people first. Don't worry, even if the Santanu sinks, it will take a long time. We have reinforcement. Sakaki shouted at this time. The others didn't know whether it was true or not at this time, but they had no choice but to do it first. They were not worried about themselves. After all, even if they were not water trainers, at their level, there would always be a way to escape. Big-tailed civets can swim, right, but if we leave it alone, other people on the ship may suffer heavy casualties. As for the leaders of Team Rocket, they already felt that there is no need to follow the rules of the road with such a crazy guy, so they released their Pokémon one after another. But at this moment, just listen. Boom! A thunder suddenly sounded, and at the same time all the surrounding windows were shattered. And then the strong airflow poured in, and the roof of the top floor was completely lifted. When everyone saw the sky clearly, they realized that there might be something wrong with this thunderstorm. Although there was no moonlight at all, the rolling thunder on the thunderclouds provided some illumination at this time. Upbraid! I just heard a high-pitched cry coming from the thundercloud. At the same time, what no one noticed was that, vaguely visible in the lightning, the shadow of something huge seemed to be moving under the sea. Chapter 423 Sneak Attack. October 10th. Late point on the Santanu. Nazi, with her 3 aces, defeated more than 20 members of the senior Rockets, including Giant, in half a minute. However, at this moment, the third explosion, that is, the second large-scale explosion struck, and the ship's hull was obviously bumped again, and Eminem felt that the wind was already very strong at this time. You must know that although he is on the deck now, he is on the deck of the central square surrounded by cabins. It is said to be very sheltered from the wind. Do Masashi and the others have a dragon-type trump card? Eminem asked Nana. No. Nazi. Nazi frowned when she heard this, and then said, Masashi has an electric dragon. As we all know, although electric dragon usually does not have dragon type attributes, after Mega Evolution, it is an electric plus dragon Pokémon. And the effect of Dragon Ancestor is effective on all dragon bloodlines. Then I'll go up with you. Amu's eyes lit up. Whatever. Nazi sneered, looking confident about life and death. Of course, Eminem didn't say much. Anyway, since Leoka was here, there was no problem in self-protection. Eminem had also confirmed that Leoka was awake now. Then let me show you what it means to be a man protected by a mythical beast. Seeing Eminem smiling confidently, Nazi couldn't hold back her anger, but now her mental strength itself is very limited, and she may go back to sleep once she can't hold it anymore. So she tries to keep her mood swings as low as possible. Immediately, Nazi began to sweep the floor from the first floor. Wherever she went, the and senior who were originally fighting fiercely. Basically only the obedient remained. Most of the cabins in Area A are open structures such as restaurants, gyms, and sports venues. At this time, each floor has become a mess. NMR. Nazi? What's going on? Didn't it just pass that one just now must be fake? No. Don't be fooled. Nazi has taken refuge with Mazishi. However, when they arrived at the 7th floor, Amudu had not yet made any move with his old card, although Nazi pretended not to care and said, "You have to follow me, and I will not protect you." But in fact, by accident, Eminem was always covered just right. Point by the way, Eminem also gives orders in a fake manner to those who are still awake. You don't need to go up. You can't help. Leave a third of the people to look after these guys, and the others will immediately assist Junsha in rescuing the passengers. This is Team Rocket's top priority now. Eminem directly directed the Rockets to participate in the rescue. Some of them were unconvinced and asked, "Who are you, Eminem?" Confirmed from the corner of his eye that Nazi's Brimwen was not far behind, and when he walked up to him, there was a big dick. "Who am I?" "Just ask Sakaki." Nazi ignored him from beginning to end, as if he was just a fiddler following her. But, seeing that Nazi had no objection, the other also automatically regarded Eminem as a high-ranking member of Team Rocket. Without Eminem, Nazi would not have said anything to them. Due to her personality, Nazi would not think about too many other things. She just wanted to hang up Mazishi, Lambda, and that woman and beat them. But Eminem feels that these little minions are just causing trouble now, so they might as well help save people. If Sakaki were here, he would definitely think so too. On the 7th floor, Eminem also saw two acquaintances. Kojiro and Musashi were also here at this time, and they were naturally at this time. There was also a huge fight on the 7th floor, especially the 7th floor, which was a sports stadium with a relatively open structure and a large area of open space. This is different from the competition. Both sides aim to attack the other's trainer. Musashi has even put on the iron claws and is manually grabbing point at this time. Kojiro failed to attack the little leader A Liang and was about to be caught by A Liang with an electrified whip. But at this moment, everyone present suddenly felt a headache, and their hands could not help but slow down. Then all the senior on the field suddenly floated on the spot, and their Pokémon also suffered the next moment. Or thought attack that appeared out of thin air. Then in a burst of clear footsteps, Nazi walked in slowly. NMR. Nazi? What's going on? Didn't it just pass that one just now must be fake? No. Don't be fooled. Nazi has taken refuge with Mazishi. Slim. Shady. I always feel like everyone's reaction seems familiar every time. At this time, Eminem stood up again and gave orders. Leave half of you to keep an eye on these guys, and the rest. Kojiro, take them to participate in the rescue. But, Boss Sakaki is still up there. Kojiro was about to retort, but when he looked at Eminem's eyes, he suddenly felt excited and said quickly, "Yes." Seeing that, Kojiro agreed, and Lady Nazi had no objection. Others also thought that Amu was a Kada whose identity was kept secret. This step was completed without using Eminem's wake-up slap for a while. Just when Nazi was about to go to the top floor and reach the stairs, there was an undetectable sway under her feet. Eminem, who had been observing closely, hurriedly went over to give her a hand. Although Nazi stared at her with red eyes, fortunately, she was out of the sight of others and no one knew about Nazi's actual condition. Not good. Nazi was in a daze, and while the red light in her eyes flickered in and out, Hudi, Brimwen and Gardev were also looked a little dizzy. The reason why Nazi's Pokémon has grown to this point at such a young age is also because of her usual resonance meditation training. The advantage is that the stronger the trainer's mental power, the faster the Pokémon will grow. Putting it on Natsu is like cheating, but the disadvantage is, when Natsu's condition is too bad, the Pokémon will also be affected. Sakaki seems to be prepared. Now except for the leaders, all the traitors have been taken down. You'd better not go up. Eminem advised. Let go. I can still do it. Nazi didn't refute, but said stubbornly. At this moment, Eminem suddenly saw a black hole emerging behind Nazi. In the blink of an eye, Eminem reacted immediately. His arm holding Nazi was tighter, and at the same time, he twisted his waist and horse together, turned Nazi around, and turned into a hug. The red light in Nazi's eyes suddenly flashed faster, causing her face to turn red just when Nazi was shocked. She also noticed that behind Eminem, a shadow-like arm stretched out. No. It was taken out. It hit hard against the colorless barrier that appeared around Eminem, and the attack was obviously blocked. Suddenly Nazi also understood what was going on with Eminem. Chapter 424 Chaos. October 10th. Late. After Yumi told Eminem to be careful, she took people to maintain the rescue and escape order. The continuous explosions made her understand that now, compared to the dog-eat-dog situation of Team Rocket, it was more important to deal with the rescue of the passengers on the ship. During this period, Yumi actually wanted to ask someone to take down Lemmy first. But considering that there were more Junches in SYNOPSIS, if internal strife started, nothing would be done. Seeing that Yumi was staring at him, Lemmy also understood what she meant, so he had no choice but to say, "Everyone, give priority to rescue and follow the instructions of the Quartz Alliance's police officer Yumi." After the SYNOPSIS heard this, some of them were a little worried. After all, Yumi police looked too young, but the other part was relieved. At this time, they also realized that there was something wrong with Lemmy's previous order under the current situation. They were already hesitant, but Lemmy took the initiative to step aside at this time, which saved them from having to worry. It was precisely because she saw the thoughts of these people that Lemmy let go, and she also realized that she had been deceived. At this time, the passengers on the boat were already in chaos. The power outage was not bad. After all, emergency lighting was activated in key places, and many Pokémon that could emit light had been released for lighting at this time, so it would not be too dark. But now I don't know whether someone guessed it or someone deliberately caused trouble. Many passengers were shouting that there were not enough lifeboats, and they wanted to go to the entrance below the deck and break into the escape cabin first. The crew received an order to temporarily block all entrances to the cabins below the deck, in order to avoid a breakdown in order. Another thing happened during this period. The situation was originally more chaotic than it is now. Just now, after the temporary energy source was automatically used, and part of the power supply was restored, there was a problem with the operating system. Many operating cabins below the deck had previously entered an automatically closed state, and wanted to change it back. It cannot be operated manually either. Even the Porygon and Rotom among them seemed to be under attack, and in a state of being unable to contact them. Fortunately, unknown support appeared at this time, which forcibly cut off the control of the ship by the artificial intelligence Anciano, and saw that the polygons originally lodged inside were ejected one after another. Although the artificial intelligence has not been restored, it can finally be operated manually. It was just before the system collapsed that the captain's order was issued. Of course, it was Noah who assumed the name of the captain, and Mr. Captain had already been blown away. Although the crew members are also doubting whether the captain's order is true or false. They have never issued such an order normally, but they can see that this order is indeed very suitable for the current situation. So while checking the 2 lifeboat cabins and arranging other rescue methods, the remaining people went to block the doors to prevent the situation from getting out of control. Only then did I persist until Yumi arrived. At this moment, Yumi, who was riding a wind speed dog, jumped directly from a high place. Under the threat of the wind speed dog, the originally confused passengers and their Pokémon all retreated in fright and gave way. Yumi shouted into the loudspeaker, "Everyone be quiet. Keep your distance. I'm the person in charge of this ship. I have communicated with the captain about the previous accident. My work with the Sentinel the personnel are all confident in bringing everyone back to land safely. Now, except for aquatic Pokémon and Pokémon under lighting, non-staff members, take all Pokémon back. Everyone, keep your distance. Keep your distance. We will coordinate everyone's orderly evacuation later. Elderly people over 60 years old, children under 14 years old, and women with children under 6 years old should come to the front first." This is half true and half false. Yumi must first make everyone obey the command. Yumi's calmness gave many people confidence, but it was not enough to give everyone confidence. What? Must be safe. I heard that the lifeboats have been bombed. The Captain hasn't appeared yet. He must have escaped. Don't listen to her. This is all to let Sakaki and the others go first. Under the instigation of a few people, seeing everyone wavering again, Yumi stared at the crowd and finally found a guy who was cowering and making noises. As soon as she patted the wind speed dog underneath her as her old partner, Star immediately understood. Star suddenly jumped up and jumped directly in front of the man with Yumi on his back. Without waiting for him to say anything, he directly bit him up and then immediately rushed to the edge of the ship. Amid the exclamations, he raised his head and moved smoothly. Throw it down. Just as the crowd around them was swaying between accelerated panic and deterrent success, Yumi shouted again, "There are enough lifeboats and aquatic Pokémon. I will be the last to leave the Centino. Before you enter below, before entering the rescue cabin, I will always be with you on the deck. If you have any needs, please report to me. Now each family and each team will send one person back to the cabin to get necessary clothes and medicines. Junsha will accompany everyone in each district and on each floor. They will be the last to leave the cabin. Others wait in place to save their energy. During this period, all inciting behaviors will be executed on the spot." Hearing Yumi's half promise, half threat words, the scene finally calmed down temporarily. Tamer at the same time, the guy who just fell into the water, although he fell half to death due to the height of the cruise ship, was still fished out of the sea by Zyuksha's Laplace. At this time, there were actually many aquatic treasures swimming around the ship. Pokémon. There are many flying Pokémon flying around. After all, there are thousands of people on board, and the number of water type trainers and flight type trainers is also considerable. Even if there are no lifeboats, it will not be annihilated. Otherwise the SRs would have been in chaos long ago. Looking at the weather, the flying Pokémon may soon be of no use. At this moment, Leixi watched uneasily in secret. Just when she saw that things were going to be chaotic, she also broke out in a cold sweat. Seeing that Yumi was much more capable than she thought, she was relieved and decided to leave this place in charge of Yumi. She herself was going to settle the accounts with the guys who had lied to her, but at this moment, she discovered a young woman who broke away from the large team and walked into a secluded cabin. There was no Junsha on duty there yet. The reason why we organized everyone to go back to pick up things was because Yumi had also noticed the weather, and the reason why she wanted Junsha to accompany her was because she was worried that someone might be trapped in the cabin due to damage to the hull and not know about it. Wait, what are you doing over there? Upon seeing this, Leixi quickly chased after him. However, just as Leixi was chasing after him, he suddenly realized that there was no one in the corridor in front of him. Immediately, a panic exploded in Leixi's heart. She had already touched the elf ball at her waist, but she was still a step too late. A black hole suddenly appeared behind her, and at the same time an arm that seemed to be a shadow or a nightmare stretched out, directly penetrating her body. Although the wind speed dog beside her acted immediately, and other Pokémon also popped out of the elf ball, but after the power like black mist swept across, they were all quickly hypnotized. Down. Leixi has fallen into a pool of blood forever. She is not an undercover agent of the Dark Organization, but Junsha, a real undercover agent who is also a higher ranking person than her, took advantage of her character weaknesses. This is the most profitable thing for the Dark Organization. As long as she shuts up forever, no one will know who gave Leixi the hint, and they will only think that the problem is Leixi himself. After silencing Leixi, Belmont hesitated for a moment whether to pretend to be Leixi and go back to fish in troubled waters. However, considering that the Junshas were very wary at this time, he would definitely be suspected if he didn't use Leixi's Pokémon. So I didn't take risks, but planned to go to Area A to investigate the situation first, and then decide whether to take action or evacuate. Chapter 425 Shocked Retreat. Belmode returned to Area A, but when she saw groups of senior fallen down, she did not act rashly. After all, she was not Marzishi, let alone Marzishi's subordinate. The dog-eat-dog battle of Team Rocket has begun, and both for Team Galaxy and Team Flare, the goal has been achieved. As long as Belmode leaves safely with Chakra, he will be successful in this business, of course. If Marzishi can succeed, it will be even more bloody. After all, Sakaki is far more difficult to deal with than Marzishi. Team Rocket is also the strongest among the violent organizations, besides Team Flare, even excluding the undercovers of major organizations. The Rocket team is stronger on paper than the Flash team. After all, it is the only organization that controls the gray areas of the two major regions. But now the plan has basically been successful. The two lifeboat cabins have been blown up, and the sky will be blocked next. Aquatic Pokémon alone cannot carry everyone, and there will definitely be a lot of casualties on the Centinu point. This also means that Team Rocket will not only be severely damaged due to internal strife, but Sakake's previous plan will also be completely bankrupt. This is a result that Belmode can accept. In addition, he still had to face Nazi, so Belmode was very cautious and had no intention of fighting for Marzishi Point if Naz was with all 6 Pokémon. Now, Belmode would most likely choose to take Chakra away directly point, but now Nazi only has 3 aces outside. It's not that Belmode thinks he can deal with Nazi's 3 trump cards, but he can guess from this that Nazi is holding on, so she followed him for a while, and sure enough, Nazi, who was holding on, couldn't find Belmode point. Then Belmode suddenly made a sneak attack when Nazi was really showing her fatigue and flaws. However, at the moment when she was about to succeed, Eminem actually reacted. It was not just a matter of quick reaction, but Eminem, who had some moon path abilities, saw darkly in advance. Yes, black hole, for an ordinary person. By the time Eminem reacted, the naked eye would not be able to detect anything unusual. Point of course, if Nazi was normal, both she and Hoodie would be the first to discover it. However, the result of Nazi's barely fighting now is that she feels dizzy, and her normally restrained energy has become particularly difficult to concentrate. At this moment, she was suddenly hugged by Eminem. Nazi was even a little dazed at first. After all, Nazi had never been confessed to by anyone. No, she had no experience communicating with others. When she was a child, she was always an alien because of her excessive superpowers. Later, after she became the Super Queen, no one would communicate with her in a normal manner. It was either reverence or fear, and more often both. There are all of them. It can be said that Nazi is usually autistic due to her childhood experience, but because she is too confident at the same time, she behaves like a tyrant with autism. After being attacked, she became suspicious of all the people in her gym. The gym trainers all distrust each other, which is the best evidence. So now Nazi's first reaction is, I don't know how to react. The next moment, Nazi realized that there was a sneak attack. Fortunately, Eminem was covered by the old card. Darkray's attack was directly blocked. At the same time, Darkray also felt that there was a light wall of unknown level around Eminem. Eminem had seen Darkray come out of the black hole before at the Tokiwa Twin Towers. He didn't understand the principle of this. In the game, black hole was just a move of mass hypnosis. However, in this world, the skills of real divine beasts are difficult to predict. Not to mention it's an exclusive skill. Even if it's a light wall, isn't what Eminem has now even more foul. The next moment, Nazi stood up quickly, forcibly restraining her mental power, and saw Hoodie instantly mega evolve. The 3 aces attacked Darkray at the same time. At this time, Eminem had time to turn his head and take another look at Darkray, perhaps because the distance this time was closer, and he was looking at it from this distance. Eminem always felt that under the shadow-like body of Darkray, those blue eyes looked like a person. I don't know why, but Eminem always feels that at this moment, it's either like a joking woman, looking at him playfully. The next moment, this Darkray emitted grey-black mist all over its body, and the figure disappears. Belmode failed to hit the target and immediately prepared to retreat. Although Nazi's situation didn't look good, she didn't want to go against the plan and fight this super queen. She just saw a great opportunity, so she gave it a try. But now it seems that Nazi still has the strength to fight. Besides, Eminem was there. Belmode also paid attention to Eminem. She originally thought that the first time she saw this kid who made Jin feel depressed was at the Tokiwa Twin Towers. After all, before that, Belmode didn't take Eminem seriously. Still later in the job and Twin Towers, Eminem actually avoided being hypnotized and woke up Sakaki immediately, causing her to fail. Only then did Belmode notice Eminem with his own eyes. After a little investigation, Belmode discovered, I have actually seen this kid before. When he was in Moonview Mountain, Eminem was also abused by Sachi. Casually point Belmode didn't even notice this person. He just thought it was young trainer A and B. Even when I heard Jin mention it, I didn't think of it. This coincidence made Belmode even more curious about Eminem. And now, because of Eminem's surprise, Belmode's plan to pick up the leak failed. Point at the same time, Belmode also immediately retreated. After all, Jin suffered a big loss at the job and Twin Towers before. Belmode didn't want to try on himself to see if Eminem could still summon that thing. Point at this time, Nazi wanted to chase, but was stopped by Eminem. Eminem didn't want to be tested by Belmode, and Nazi was obviously not in the right state. Wait, don't worry about that guy for now. She is still a member of Team Flare, and she and Mazishi are not of the same mind. Eminem stopped him quickly. Get out of the way, somewhat. Nazi scolded forcefully at first, and then softened a little inexplicably. But in general, Nazi was not prepared to obey this guy's arrangements. But at this moment, Nazi's whole body suddenly felt weak, and Amu, who was originally supporting Nazi, was stunned for a moment, only to see Nazi's body gradually shrank, and she naturally turned into holding her hands from under her arms. Her posture, Eminem, Nazi, because Nazi's mental power was turned off, Hoodie's mega evolution state was released. Fortunately, they did not fall asleep directly this time, but Eminem vaguely felt that without Nazi's cooperation, her ace's momentum also declined. Especially Gardevoir and Blim when outside Hoodie. Natsu's own strength is definitely not just equivalent to the level Pokémon in the rumors. Eminem even suspects that it is not just an elite level Pokémon, but in real battles, the role she can play, and it's not her own mental power, but the increase she has for her super type Pokémon when they fight together. What's going on? You look like this. Didn't you just change into a special look just to get away? How could you change back now? In order to break the embarrassment, Eminem raised his doubts ordinarily. This is not Nazi's normal appearance, and it is completely different from Conan and Zio AI. How could it be? First, put me down, Nazi reminded with a dark face. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.